Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. I think we have at least 3 commissioners present, so we can get started with our town meeting. It's Wednesday, August the 11th. We will begin with roll call. We'll call to order and roll call.
Commissioner Ward 1 present.
Ward 2, Commissioner Armache. Commissioner Armache.
Hi.
Thank you. Ward 3, Commissioner Wheatley present. Ward 4, Commissioner Givens.
Commissioner Givens present. Ward 4.
Thank you. Commissioner Yuri. Is Commissioner Yuri present? Does not sound like Commissioner Yuri is present. Please notate that Commissioner Yuri, our at-large commissioner, is not present at this time. We will move on with our meeting. Next on our agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes and financials for July. Are there any edits or comments?
Would you like me to bring those up, ma'am?
Yes, please.
And I have a couple of short comments on each of those. This is Commissioner Young.
Go ahead, Commissioner Young.
On the minutes for the work session of July 6th, under the authorization for speed camera ordinance, this is just a detail, but it refers to Gasco. I think we need to spell out what the whole company is. In the second line of that, middle of the line, Gasco needs an ordinance first. I think we need to spell out what the actual company is.
That is the name of it, as far as I know.
Huh?
I believe that's the name of the company is Gasco.
The whole that's their whole name? Okay, well, if that's true, sorry. For the Wednesday, July 14th, under Public Works update, tree removal, never mind. I see down there that there is a provision for the light on Parkwood Street. That's all. Thank you.
Any other comments or edits? Hearing no comments, we can move on. Next is our budget. Any questions or
Please ask
comments?
everybody to mute if you're not speaking. I'm hearing extra noise.
Ms. Barber, can you please make Commissioner Armache and myself co-hosts?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do that now.
This is Commissioner Young. Yeah, whoever is on speaker needs to get off speaker.
Well, unfortunately, as I'm monitoring the meeting, I can't go on mute right now. So anyone else that doesn't need to be on mute, you probably should go on mute. Ms. Murphy, so anyone that doesn't need to be on mute, probably should go on mute. Like,
I also see that, I'm sorry, this is Commissioner Young. I also see that Mr. Best just put in the chat line, the name of the company is GATSO USA.
yes, I saw that comment.
We'll make that correction.
Do we know who number is 0337?
That's Bill Kopecky.
Can you ask him to please mute?
Yeah, hold on.
I muted him.
Thank you.
He's on mute already.
Okay, and can you please mute yourself? Thank you.
I just did and I will again.
We also have 5785. Okay. So in front of us is the budget. Ms. Barbara, can you bring that up on the screen?
Yes, ma'am. Is there any particular section you'd like me to go to?
No, I just wanted it on the screen to see if there were any comments or questions. Are there any comments or questions at this time? Okay, hearing no comments or questions on the budget or the actuals, we can move to the next item.
If you give me just a minute, I have to pull that back up. I accidentally closed it out.
Do we need to vote on the approving the minutes and the financials?
There's a motion to vote. We can definitely vote.
Commissioner Yuri is in the meeting.
Hi, Commissioner Yuri.
Good evening.
Commissioner Givens, I'll make a motion, to accept the financials and the minutes.
Second, Commissioner Young.
Thank you. Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Givens, aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Wheatley, aye.
Yuri, aye.
Motion passes. Next on our agenda would be public comments. So it looks like we have quite a large crowd tonight. 21 participants, which is great. So if there are any public comments at this time, we will entertain them. You may have to unmute yourself. So we'll give you a minute to do that. Please announce your name and address so that for the record.
This is John Kopecki from 3718 40th Avenue. I think it would be helpful if you put the meeting numbers in the newsletter and not just have them on the website for people who don't use computers.
Mr. Kopecki, we lost you. Could you repeat that?
I think it would be useful if you put the meeting ID number and access number in the newsletter. I think
It sounds like you said to put the meeting link and the meeting ID in the newsletter. Is that what you said?
yes.
Okay, because we have a really bad connection. Okay, I think that's doable, since those numbers normally do not change.
Well, the access number changes. And anyway, people who don't use their computer would like to have them maybe one day.
Are you referring to the people who call in by phone? Oh my goodness. Okay, it's a really bad connection. Okay, Mr. Kopecki,
Yes?
do you have any other comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, we'll follow up on that one. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyway, people who don't use it would like to have them maybe one day.
Okay, are there any other public comments at this time? I saw in the chat that there was a comment from Ms. Sawyer. If you'd like to speak, you can.
Can you hear me here?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I am not very technologically aware. Is there a way I can see myself at the same time I'm talking? Is this just voice?
You should be able to if you scroll. Are you on a phone or a computer?
I'm on Josh's iPad. As long as you can hear me, that's okay.
We can hear you. If you want to see yourself, if you scroll to the side, you'll go to gallery view, where you'll see the people that have their cameras turned on.
Okay.
Or you can turn gallery view on. Now, do you see?
It doesn't line up that way on the computer, but that's not I'm happy with voice.
Okay.
Okay, so hi everybody. I am very glad to be able to talk to you all. I apologize. I am not a technology person at all. I do pretty much everything on a cell phone, which makes some things hard. I have been talking to artists. I'm going to be, I've got a meeting with Chief Ayers tomorrow. I've been talking to a wonderful representative from the Parks Department. She's a conservation specialist and has been doing a huge amount of work over at the Bladensburg Waterfront Park. She'd like to introduce a program to Cottage City that would be kind of in the area just east of the gardens, that whole beautiful wetlands area that's completely overgrown. She already has funding and some excellent plans to use that as a job training program and I don't know, some other stuff. So that was part of what I wanted to say now. The main thing was I would like to request that we review the codes, specifically chapter 12 or section 12. I apologize, I don't know the wording. It's primarily around the property management. I've been doing some research and have some information about our neighboring communities and the way that they have rewritten and updated those codes. I think I completely understand the focus of that, the reason for that. We want, to have a nice looking neighborhood, but the insistence on maintaining what is basically a lawn is no longer appropriate. Larry Hogan just signed a bill 322 that prohibits HOAs from requiring lawns. It goes into effect this fall. I would love to see the city follow in that. Even more than that, I think what our community really needs as far as kind of property management is some introduction into the programs offered by the Rain Check program through PG County. Residents, property owners are able to get reimbursed up to $4,000 for an approved set of programs. Everybody could take out their front lawn, put it in a rain garden, and then be reimbursed $4,000. All of those programs really support one of the main problems we have as residents, and that is flooding. We have a lot of flooding. Yeah, so I guess those two things first. The first, I'm very happy to let everybody know that the parks want to come in and do some really great programming to revitalize that area next to the community garden. And second is to ask what are next steps to reviewing and updating and hopefully publishing some new city codes.
Commissioner Gibbons?
Hi.
Commissioner Gibbons?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
The town, I've been here for a long time, and the town doesn't really enforce any type of mandate to have grass in front of your house. What they do regulate is you have to maintain your yard in some type of fashion. You can't have grass that's over 12 inches. So even, I mean, I have I have a very little grass in front of my house, but you would still have to maintain whatever type of yard that you put out there. I think Prince George's County has this thing about, grass or something like that. But the town code enforcement has never, if that is in the code, I don't recall seeing it. But if it, and I'm sure it's in the county code, but I'm sure that they don't. I know that they don't. What's the name? So, but I'm sure that it's not a problem reviewing those things at some point. And going over it with the chief and code enforcement and the commission and kind of look at what's relative to today's, what we're doing today. So I yield back.
And so this is Amy. I greatly appreciate that. It would be really nice to have an opportunity to talk about the codes. Just as an aside, it's also written that you're not allowed to use a skateboard in Cottage City. And I'm pretty sure I saw some photos of Chief Ayers. So, I think there's some areas that we could really look at and just make sure they are truly supportive of our community.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy. Did you have any other comments or was that it?
Well, so specifically, I would appreciate what the next step is to follow up on a review of the codes.
That would actually have to begin with our code enforcement because they're the subject matter experts and kind of going through it and then presenting what their ideas and thoughts.
I'm on, Greg.
And then we would discuss it as a commission in an open forum and hear from residents and so on and so forth. Because you're right, some of it is no longer within, makes any sense and
Right.
but, so.
And so I appreciate that, Commissioner Givens. I've actually drafted a letter to Mr. Ward. I had gotten a warning. It's actually the second I've gotten, and it's kind of related. I held off in sending out that letter because I really wanted to find out from the commission what the best way is to open up that discussion. So I appreciate that you've given me a point of contact, and I will follow up with Mr. Ward.
Well, initially the commission has to go ahead and authorize or direct the chief to begin a process of reviewing the code and then presenting the commission with some type of revised that makes sense. At least we'll have a structure. We'll be forever sitting there going through a bunch of stuff that we not necessarily have any subject matter expertise.
Well,
to.
so actually, sir, respectfully, I've gotten copies of several of our surrounding neighborhoods and cities to see what they have already in place as regards to what our section 12 is. I'd really like to have an opportunity to present that to the commission because it is time that we revise some of these codes. I guess I'm asking the commission to start this process.
This is Commissioner Young. I would suggest that you provide something to us all in writing, giving your point of view and your suggestions. I think that would be very helpful to get some clarity on what you are actually asking for.
Sure, I appreciate that, Commissioner Young. I think that's an excellent idea. Would it be just addressed to the council then?
To the commission and
The commission, yeah, I apologize.
right, and you could send it. Pardon me. You can send it in care of our town manager.
Okay.
And you can call the town hall and get the email addresses of all the commissioners and the town manager.
I have all that information already, so I will
Okay,
go ahead
good.
and
Well,
do
then
that.
you can just, right. Okay, well, thank you.
Sure, yes, I appreciate all your time and attention. Thank you.
This Chief Ayers, can I say something real quick?
Go ahead, Chief.
All right, in reference to changing codes and everything, you have people out there also that have a problem with people's grass and how their aesthetics of the houses look. So we have to be fair about this. So I have no problem meeting with individuals about changing codes and stuff, but we have about the same amount of people that complain constantly on a weekly basis about people's yards, how their yards look. So the way people feel about how they should have a large groomed or not groomed, you have another person that wants something totally different. So we have to go by what the laws are. Now, skateboarding, I wasn't aware of a skateboarding law in the town. It's a lot of laws that I'm not aware of.
Yeah, sure.
Issue, and that somebody said we can't do skateboards, it brings my attention. I find it, and we say we can't do it. I had no problem with it. But we know for a fact we get constant complaints on a weekly basis in reference to people's yards. We're not getting constant complaints about skateboards. We're getting constant complaints about how people's yards look. I'm willing to sit down to look at some ideas and see if something we can do to compromise or come to some agreement. But we need to let other people that complain to me constantly be in those meetings also, because they have complaints about how they can't sell a house because neighbors are not cutting the grass. We have a house behind another location, I think it was on 41st, that she's very upset that she can't sell a house because of her two neighbors, how their yards look. She lost deals because of that. So we have to think about this, because property standards are something that's serious. It brings property values down when people don't upkeep their houses. So we have to really look at this fairly on both sides. So I'm willing to sit down and meet with her and meet with anybody who want to meet with me, but it should be open to other people to come to actually say their opinions too.
And thank you, Chief Ayers. I really appreciate that. I in no way am implying that. I mean, I totally understand why the codes are the way they are. I mean, no, we don't want to live in a neighborhood that's, run down. There are lots of ways to find compromise. I'm really advocating for a kind of compromise that would allow residents to take advantage of that money for their front yards to put in a rain garden, and it makes it not a grass issue. I'd like to just kind of piece out what we're calling weeds and what we're calling all of that. There are some wonderful, fantastic native plants that do incredibly well under being walked on. I'm really right now, I am not criticizing, I'm just asking for an opportunity to explore some other options. That's it. So Chief Ayers, I appreciate you giving me this time tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to that.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So before we move on, I noticed that we have Delegate Diana Fennell's office joining us. Is there someone who would like to speak from Delegate Fennell's office?
No, I'm just listening and taking notes. Thank you.
You're welcome. I also see we have Council Member Doug Bowles from Comar Manor. Welcome, Council Member Bowles.
Thank you, Chair Wheatley. It's my first chance to be able to attend one of your meetings. I'm very excited to see how it goes and to meet some of my neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Let's see, who else do we have? Commissioner Shannon. Do we know who that is?
Yes, how are you this evening?
Good evening.
Can y'all hear me? Hello, everyone. I'm Commissioner Shannon. I'm from the Housing Authority of Prince George's County.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, I'm just finding out that you have meetings, and I asked to sit in, and if anybody have any questions.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good
Okay.
to know.
All right.
Welcome.
Thank you, dear.
Let's see. What else do we have on from the public? Okay. Miss Ellis. Miss
Can
Ellis?
you all hear me? Can
Yes.
you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Would you, hi, would you like
Hi. I have no comments now. I'm just listening to the agenda and taking notes as to what's going on in the community since we're right here in the community. I understand because we are private property, there are certain limitations and guidelines, but I always like to listen in and hear what's going on to keep abreast of what's happening inside Cottage City and the township as a whole. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm not sure if you heard, we have the commissioner from the housing, Ms. Shannon.
Oh,
Commissioner
I know. Yeah, I know who she is. Yes. I'm glad she was able to join us. I'm quite surprised. But I'll just be listening to see if you know information about the township and any changes. Like I was taking notes about the reference to the lawns and the proper upkeep and things of that nature. So it's always good to be able to sit in and listen as it relates to what's going on in and around the township. We thank you here at the City House. We thank you, the township, for everything that you do for us and attempt to do for us. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other public comments at this time? If not, we will go on to our next item, which is old business. The speed camera ordinance. Ms. Barbara, would you like to bring that up? The speed camera ordinance.
Yes, ma'am. It just takes a while for it to load.
That's fine. And of course, if anyone in the public would like to speak later on, we will open the floor back up before we adjourn. So in case you think of something later on, don't worry, you'll get another chance to speak. And we'll be taking the vote tonight, correct?
On the speed camera?
Yes.
No, ma'am, this is just the first reader.
I thought we did the first read at the last meeting.
The work session meeting?
No. You sure
No.
this is the first reading?
Yes, ma'am, because we have not read the ordinance in yet.
Okay. I could have sworn I read it, but okay. Do you have it up? I need to see the top part.
I have it up. I'm not sure if you can't see it.
I can see it now.
This is Commissioner Young. When it's the appropriate time, I do have some comments and questions.
Okay, well, how about I just read the title and then you can make your comments, Commissioner Young?
Okay.
Okay, so this is the first reader of ordinance number 2021-03, introduced by the Cottage City Commission. Oh, it's hard for me to read this.
Long title.
Yeah, it's very long and it's screen is not cooperating. Okay, so an ordinance of the town of Cottage City for the purpose of establishing and authorizing the use of speed monitoring systems in the town of Cottage City by adopting provisions governing speed monitoring systems in order to authorize the implementation of such systems in designated school zones or residential districts, to detect speed limit violations using vehicle sensors that produce recorded images of passing vehicles, and to specify the conditions under which a speed monitor system shall be used. By establishing the penalty for a speed limit violation recorded by said system, and the means for processing citations for speed limit violations recorded by a speed monitoring system. By defining school zones and residential districts. I can't see all of it because the screen is cut off. If you could bring it up some, thank you. Where did I stop?
By requiring,
By requiring the calibration and self-testing of systems and the use and placement of systems in school zones or residential districts. And by further requiring the Cottage City Commission to designate an employee or official to review speed monitoring system citations and address questions or concerns from the public, and designate a program administrator to oversee the contract with a speed monitoring system contractor, and by prohibiting certain future payments on a per ticket basis to specified contractors, and requiring a contract to provide for the payment of liquidated damages by the contractor if more than 5% of violations issued or erroneous as defined by law, by authorizing the town to use and enforce citations issued by a speed monitoring system or a red light enforcement system and the penalties related thereto, mandating a certain period of time during which violations may be enforced using a speed enforcement system and a red light enforcement system, by requiring the town to comply with certain state law for use of these systems, by defining certain terms, by requiring certain reports to be filed, and generally relating to the regulation and control of vehicles and the traffic use of technology to regulate traffic and improve public safety in the town. Very long title. Very, very long. Okay. Commissioner Young, your questions?
Yes, can you hear me?
We sure can.
Oh, okay. Can you still hear me? All right. My main concern has to do with the designating an employee or official. Technically, I'm wondering about that because, you know, if there's one person designated, they're not available. I'm just wondering how practical that is. And I don't know whether that's required to be part of this ordinance. I don't have any problem with designating someone or an alternate, but I'm just sort of wondering about the practicality of it. On the more substantive part of it, my question has to do with the erroneous violation concept. Down on starting on page 5 and going on to page 6, it talks about the designee or ombudsman at the top of page 6 shall review the citation if a person requests review. And then it says, if said designee determines that the citation is an erroneous violation, the designee shall void the citation. And then it goes into whether the person received notice, and talks about making notifications. But maybe I'm just missing it, but I didn't see the standards for how you determine whether a citation was erroneous. And Kevin may be able to point me towards that, but that seemed to be leaving it pretty wide open there. Let's see, the other parts, I didn't have any problem with that part of that. Let's see, and then there was towards the end, on the bottom of page 14, it talks about a school zone further defined as a third line of section 9-18A, defined as a designated roadway segment of up to a half-mile radius from a school for any grades kindergarten through grade 12. And I just wondered, as a matter of fact, are any of our streets within a half mile of any school? Do we know that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We have a school across the street, Como Manor, that's inside. It's an active school inside Como Manor. I guess town hall. Also, we have a school in Mount Rainier is in about mile and a half radius.
Okay, so good. Okay, that's just what I was wondering about. So my main concern would be about the designated person and the standards for determining whether a violation is erroneous. And I don't have any problem with appointing a local designee as long as, you know, there's some provision for an alternate if that person's not available. But it does, am I missing something, Mr. Best, on the standard for determining whether something erroneous, whether a citation is erroneous?
I can answer that question. Right now, we that's the same mandate we have with our red light camera. We do have two people. We have one major person. We have an alternate in reference to verifying, and a supervisor verifies it after that. So we have two levels of verification for our speed camera, for our red light camera, as well as speed camera if we go that way. So
okay, but I wanted to ask Mr. Best about this, about whether there are any standards for determining an erroneous violation.
Yes, it's a standard. It's a class that they take. It's a standard in reference to lighting, in reference to the vehicle in a certain lane, the color of the vehicle. It's all like 10 to 12 points that we have to make sure that every vehicle is in compliance before we can actually validate a tag or validate a citation.
And where are those standards located?
Those standards are located through our training modules. That it comes with the training or with that software, whatever software we get.
Okay, is Mr. Best on the line?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so are there any standards that are written down in the code or in some document that's available to people?
Yes, they're in section 21-809 of the transportation article. And I believe this ordinance does define an erroneous violation. The classic erroneous violation would be, for example, an obliterated picture of the license plate. You can't read it. Things like that. There's also
I'm not questioning whether there are things. I'm just trying to locate where it defines it.
Yeah, it's in both transportation article, section 21-809, and I believe that's defined in
the state law. That's a state law.
Yes, it's a state statute. That is the authorizing statute for speed cameras.
You might want to add that in there to say as defined by Maryland Code 21-809 so that people reading this will know what that is about.
I'll take a look at that and we'll take a look at that. I want to answer your question about the ombudsman and the administrator. Those are state law requirements that came about 6 years into the speed camera authorization in Maryland. You must designate an ombudsman by state law. You can't have 3 or 5 people doing it. It has to be one person designated. Same for the program administrator, has to be a designated official or employee. Your hands are tied on this. The law is very strict because speed camera law is developed over the years very strenuously because they're very controversial, or had been when they were during their first inception. Furthermore, I'd be surprised if there's a school zone in town. The law changed last session to allow speed cameras outside of Montgomery County in what are called residential areas. So that is what changed in the law recently to allow towns like Cottage City to deploy speed cameras. Is your ability to do so in residential areas. I can't imagine, and it's a half mile for school zones. It's not a mile and a half. I can't imagine you're going to be within a school zone unless there's some private school that meets the definition of a school over in Colmar Manor.
Well, do you think maybe we should change that then to say a residential zone?
No, the speed camera ordinance is written to allow you latitude to use either school zones and designate those or designate residential areas. You have to name
Right,
them.
but since you're saying there is no school zone and that we
is
can
a school-
designate a residential zone, why don't we just put that one
yes,
in?
we have- we have a
That could
private school.
happen. You could have a school zone in the future. It's something that, you just can't necessarily foresee right now. In 3 or 5 years, you might have a school zone that you could
So
designate.
you want to say a school zone or a residential zone?
Yeah, that's what the ordinance reads. It allows you the latitude to designate either a school zone or a residential zone and deploy a speed camera in one of either zones.
Right, but what I'm saying is in this ordinance, it only refers to a school zone. So we might want to
No,
revise it.
unless there's been some change, it certainly does define a residential zone and allows that type of
Okay,
zone.
look at section 9-18.
Is that where she's at? I have to full screen it.
Page 14. I'm looking at
can't-
my copy that
All right.
that was
Well, I
provided
can't
to us
see it on the
earlier.
screen. I'll have to bring it up. I'll
Right. Do
bring
you
it up
have your
on
own?
my own. Hold on.
Miss Barbara, can you please bring that section up on the screen, please?
Have it up. I have section 9-18 up. I was showing you, it's on page
Okay,
15.
there. Don't move it. You just had it. You just had it.
Okay, if you go to page 15, it talks about the residential district.
Okay, so what that section 9-18 presumes to do, as you're required to under the law, is to actually designate where the school zone is to be designated or where the residential district is to be designated. And so you got blanks there. You got an area that you can populate with the information you need to
Gotcha. Okay.
indicate. So you certainly don't want to adopt this ordinance with those blanks in there. You want to delineate where you plan to put these residential zones. And how you do that is by talking to your residents, having a public hearing perhaps, and deciding amongst yourself exactly where you're going to put this speed camera. You can't, you have to designate a certain area and the public has to have notice of where these speed camera zones are. They're defined areas or stretches of streets. And you don't have the latitude just to willy-nilly move them around. You have to designate them, give notice, you have to post signage in accordance with section 21-809 of the transportation article. You have to post on your website where these zones are located. You have to give the public notice where these zones are located before you deploy speed cameras.
So, Mr. Bessie, you didn't draft this.
Certainly I drafted this ordinance.
Oh, well then what you're saying though is that at the end there where they're blanks,
Yes,
that those need to be filled in before we pass it, or?
yes, you all need to decide where these speed camera zones or red light camera zones are located so you can place that information, that language.
Okay,
See, I when I was asked to draft this, I had no idea exactly. I had a little idea based on discussion, but it wasn't, in my mind, solidified what the majority of the commission wanted to do in terms of placing speed cameras on certain streets and roadways
Okay.
within the town. I had no idea.
Okay, so then I would suggest that we do that. I would also suggest that we put in the reference to section 21-809 in the section that talks about erroneous violations, just say as defined by Maryland state law, blank, blank, section 21-809. So someone reading this can tell where that is. And then finally, with respect to the designated person, is it okay to have, if the person that's named is not available, is it okay to have other people doing that?
You have to designate one police officer in your police department. It can be the chief, deputy chief, a corporal, a sergeant, whatever, by title. You know, you could say that this is going to be the ombudsman's responsibility is going to be the lieutenant for administration, or, I mean, you can designate by title, but you're going to have to, so the public knows who to pick up the phone to or send an email to readily. And it must be one person, can't be a floating group of people, but one person.
Okay,
and
but
you need to put,
if that one person, pardon me for interrupting, but if that one person is not available, is it okay for someone else to fulfill this function? Because it sounds like that's what we'd be doing.
well, you're always going to have people that get ill, sick, on leave for a
Right,
period
and
of
so under
time.
those circumstances, right.
Well, then that's a command decision for the police chief to decide who that's going to be. I wouldn't worry much about that. I would make sure you fulfill the legal requirement and state with certainty in resolution and on your website who that ombudsman is and who the program administrator is. Two individuals, because that's strictly required by state law.
Okay, and I think we talked about the ombudsman, but we didn't refer to the other one, so we might want to add that one in. And then fill in those blanks at the very end about the residential areas, and then add in the reference to 21-809. Those three things I would suggest get added into this.
The ordinance references the ombudsman and the program administrator. There's nothing further really needs to be done to the ordinance as to those individuals or positions. If you wish to designate them by resolution, you're free to do so.
Where's the program administrator referenced?
Who is it?
Where is the program administrator referenced?
I can't. I think it's defined. I have to look through. It's been a few months since I've looked at this ordinance for you all. It was written a long time ago.
Okay, I see the definition for it. Okay, I didn't see any other reference to it, but and anyway, those three things I think we ought to at least check further on before we go further. And you said how important it was to designate the residential areas.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're going to be required. The chief will, and your public works director will need to post signs, special speed camera signs under the Maryland Uniform Traffic Control Devices Manual will have to be posted, and they'll have to be standing up a good, I believe, 2 weeks prior to you deploying a speed camera in the zone. So there's a lot of legwork that has to take place before you actually deploy them.
Yes,
And
what she's trying to say is all the stuff you're speaking about doesn't have to be done at the reading of this ordinance. This has to be done before your system can come online. So
well, it has to be done before we pass the ordinance.
No.
You're right.
No, this stuff has to be done before we go online. Pass the ordinance doesn't have enough with that stuff right there.
So Kevin, you're saying that we can leave those blank. You're saying we can leave those sections at the end blank.
No, in reference to the street, the zones and stuff, we can actually designate a zone. The signs for those designated zones don't have to go up right now. We have to designate the streets. What he's saying now is that we have to give him the points where the zone is going to be within our town limits. I can have that for you tomorrow. That's no problem. I can do that. The other things, posting signs and other things like assigning people to be the custodian, those things can be done at a later date, but way before we go online with the first camera.
Right.
That's fine. Correct. No, I agree with that. But if you could fill in those blanks and then add in the reference to section 28-809, that would be good.
Yes, we can do that. I have that in there for the second reading.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to take so much time, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments in regards to this first reading of ordinance 2021-03? Hearing no further comments, I did see in the chat, we had a question from Amy Sawyer. And this was for the housing. And is Commissioner Shannon still with us? Doesn't look like it. Nope, we don't have the commissioner. So Miss,
Commissioner Whitney,
yes,
Commissioner Shannon had to leave on an emergency, but she told me that I can give her information to whoever that needs it.
okay.
This is Amy. I really appreciate that. As I had mentioned before, the MNC PBC is hoping to do a outreach program, possibly job training, to do a rewilding of the area between the Cottage City Community Garden and the river. It sounds like it's a really great amount of money and training, and you know, will help us, you know, bring back our area. I've been in touch with a couple of people who live in the condo development to see if we could move that effort east. And then the next property, as you know, is the affordable housing unit there. There's a lot of land and a lot of fences. So I'm hoping that we might be able to do some community work to truly incorporate that facility into the community. Yeah, so if was that Commissioner Givens who would give me that information? I will follow.
No, Miss Sawyer, that was our Public Works Department Director, Mr. Pinkney. And Mr. Pinkney,
Okay.
Can you get with Miss Sawyer and give her Commissioner Shannon's information?
Sure.
Thank you.
Commissioner Givens, hold on, Commissioner Givens. I'm a little bit confused about one of the statements that was made in regards to the property that's to the, I guess, to the right of the community garden. That no longer belongs to where you see the fence line there. We step back 2 feet or 1.5 feet back or something like that to establish that fence line. Beyond that belongs to the state of Maryland or Maryland Parks and Planning. It does not belong to Cottage City. We have no authority outside of the fence line of our community garden. So anything that's done in that area, housing has no authority over there either. It would have to come from Maryland Parks, and so I yield back.
And I appreciate that, Commissioner Givens. I have been in touch with a Ms. Antonia Bookbinder. She's a conservation specialist with Parks and Rec, and it does a jobs training program at the Bladensburg waterfront right now, converting their plantings to native plants. She would like to do a program on parkland. So this is not in Cottage City. This is that kind of wilderness just beyond the gardens. They're still developing the details, but it is hopefully going to be a similar jobs training program, looking for residents to participate, to learn skills and more specialty landscaping around native plants, how to remove non-native invasive plants. It is not on parkland. I'm sorry, it is not on Cottage City land. It's you know, beyond that. The words she used were that it would be amazing to stand in the garden, look toward the river, and be able to see through it, because the way this land should be planted with native plants, we should be able to do that. And they have money and funding to get out there, pull out the non-native plants, plant native plants. It's a win-win for our community.
Ms. Sawyer, Commissioner
Yes.
Wheatley, may I speak?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
So, Ms. Sawyer, you're basically letting us know that there's plans for that area, and you're basically staying in touch with the department to kind of give us updates on whatever plans, and maybe if we could publicize it once we get more details.
Absolutely, and at the same time, I am not speaking for any entity. I have been doing some work, and I am reaching out to community leaders, Nancy Myers at Community Forklift and the Anacostia Watershed Society, a few others. I'm hoping to establish a Friends of the Port Towns, I guess, volunteers fundraising to help really bring some projects here to our communities.
I mean, on the surface, just from you presenting it today, it sounds like a really great thing. I mean, as long as the proper channels are, contacted and it goes through accordingly to the proper channels, we don't see any problem with it. But of course, we probably need more information and probably, need to have it come from the official source, and then we could probably go about, whatever promotion accordingly after that. But
I completely agree, and that is why I appreciate this time to be able to speak to the commission and to ask what would be appropriate next steps. I am in no way trying to change policy. The big thing is that I've been looking at the revitalization of downtown Bladensburg plan. It appears that at least for the version that I've seen, will be connecting downtown Bladensburg directly to the George Washington House, which is where the Anacostia Watershed Society is. It's a historic building. It sits between the up and down on Baltimore Avenue, and they're planning a connection to the river.
This sounds like a great special project. This sounds like a wonderful independent project. I think that maybe you could forward the town manager, Miss Consuela, any information you have, and maybe she can review it, or whatever cases and whatever other business plan or project plan you have to the town manager or any of the commissioners or all of us for that matter, and we can take a look at it. And whatever contacts you've made, also, if you've already arranged something with parking planning, I mean, I'm sure Cottage City would like to take a part in anything when it, comes to preserving natural habitat or, building, skills and learning how to manage gardening. We're a gardening town, so we can proceed accordingly. Yeah, definitely.
And so so thank you so much again for your time and consideration. I definitely reiterating, I am speaking as a resident, not as a true bridge to any of these areas. I appreciate the feedback that I've gotten and direction to whom I should have the next conversations. This is an amazing town. I've never lived in a place that I loved more than this. So yeah. So thank you. I am the I have to, I have a daughter that I have to deal with, so I'm going to sign off. But again, I really appreciate everybody's time and consideration.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay, let's see what's next on the agenda tonight. We did the ordinance. We did the speed camera ordinance. Okay, next under old business would be the loading zone on Cottage Terrace. And this is for resolution 2021-04. Ms. Barber, can you please give Ms. Commissioner Amashay co-host rights?
I did.
She lost it. She had to sign off and sign back in.
Okay,
Thank you.
just a minute.
And I believe we discussed this resolution last week regarding the loading zone. And the curve has been painted yellow, so that's been taken care of.
I do have a comment, one short comment on the loading zone resolution.
Okay, I think Ms. Barber's getting ready to bring it up for us.
I'm sorry, I'm having problems with my computer. Trying to
Well,
make her.
Commissioner Young, do you want to go ahead and ask your question now while she's working on
Sure.
that?
Yeah, the main guts of this resolution says that now therefore it be resolved by the Cottage City Commission that the following actions and/or traffic control devices are hereby approved and ordered. A, placing a sign, and this is the part that I'm not clear on, beginning at a place 16 feet from the curb line, extending to the entrance of the Cottage City Community Garden. I don't really know where that is. I mean, 16 feet from the curb line all the way around. It doesn't. It doesn't seem clear to me what that's talking about.
Greg, can you explain the area where the yellow curve is? It's on the dead end part of Cottage Terrace where the circle is?
Correct.
Where is the place 16 feet from the curb line?
You said where is the? Repeat.
It refers
repeat
to placing a sign beginning at a place 16 feet from the curb line, extending to the entrance to the Cottage City Community Garden. I'm not clear where that place 16 feet from the curb line is and whether that's intended to make the whole little circle down there, no parking area. It just seems like there could be a clearer way of defining that. I'm not clear what that means.
Well, the whole circle is no parking. There's a designated area that will be for loading zone. Is that the one that you're referring to?
I'm talking about page 2. And has it been changed?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
About
right.
the
What
language.
you've
The
got up right
language.
there, the language under A, placing a sign beginning at a place 16 feet from the curb line, extending to the entrance to the Cottage City Community Garden. I don't
Right,
think that's
so
very clear. And
I asked Greg to measure from where the yellow line stops to where the place where the loading zone would start. And that's 16 feet.
from where the yellow line stops,
That's what I had
What?
intended. Yes, ma'am.
what yellow line?
The yellow line that's down there at Cottage Terrace on the curb.
Okay, is the intent to make the whole circular area down there a no parking area?
Yes, ma'am. It's no parking, but there will be a loading zone that is located next to the entrance of the community garden. And it would be a 16-foot length for the loading zone.
Correct.
Ms. Barbara, would that be longer than the current, would that occupy more space than the current loading zone?
I'm not aware that there's a current loading zone there.
Or there's a current no park zone or something like that?
So the no parking goes around the whole roundabout down at the end of the dead end by the garden. So that whole
It goes there
area
now?
that whole area.
It's there now?
Those signs have been there for years. This is just.
But there's no yellow curve all the way around.
There's yellow curve all the way around now.
Oh, there is? Okay, you put that in? Okay.
Yes, there's from the one sign on the left side all the way around to the sign on the right side. There is yellow going all the way around.
So what are we proposing?
The 16-foot loading zone will be in front of the double gate entrance, giving people the option to be able to park there for, I believe, 2 minutes per the chief, to offload or to load any vegetables or any materials that they need for the garden.
Well, why don't you just say, placing a sign in front of the door to the Cottage City Garden, indicating that the roadway in front of the Cottage City Garden is a loading zone and that it extends 8 feet on either side of the door to the Cottage City Garden. Because the way it's written now, it just didn't come across as, to me anyway, maybe I'm just not picking up on it, but.
I can write it any way you all want it. This language was similar to the language that you all used when you put in the one-way sign on the other side of Cottage Terrace in Ward 1.
Well, I'm just saying, maybe we should work on it. I mean, do other people, if no one else has a problem with it besides me, go for it.
This chief is, maybe I can explain a little bit better.
Go ahead, Chief.
This chief is, can I explain a little bit better? I mean, what's happening is we had a no parking zone there for years. What happened was to make it more visible, that's no parking, we went ahead and installed a yellow line. We didn't have to get permission for that because it's already established a no parking zone. 18 feet is not that long. If you take, I'm 6 foot. So if you go ahead and lay me down on the ground and put 3 of me down, it's almost about the size of that location. It's almost like a car length space. It's given an opportunity for the gardener people to actually come, unload and load their vehicles. So that's why we have to pass this ordinance, because you can't put no signs inside the town without getting an ordinance passed away. So what the 16 feet is showing the area where it's going to be painted or with zigzag lines, showing people where they could park their car, not park the car, but actually park the car to actually load and unload. So that's the 16-foot area they're talking about.
Right. No, I understand that. I'm just talking about the word.
Yeah, but so what we're trying to say is the 16 foot is the area where it's going to be painted on the parking lot with, I guess, zigzag lines showing people where they can park their car to actually load and unload. So that's the 16-foot area. That's going to be starting from the edge of the beginning of the yellow line.
I understand all that. I'm just talking about the language that's being used. And if everyone else understands that the language is clear, then that's fine. If not, I think we probably need to work on it.
I believe what Commissioner Young is saying is that the language do sound a little funny. It should say that there will be a sign designating a 16-foot loading zone, not really placing the sign beginning at the place 16 feet. It almost sounds like you're measuring from the current sign 16 feet from the curb.
Well, we have a comment from Mr. Best, and Mr. Best is recommending that sentence be rewritten. Ms. Barber, can you work on rewriting this and so it's a little clearer?
Yeah, I'll work with Mr. Best on rewriting it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions regarding this resolution? Now that we have it in front of us, I can read the first part so people will know what we're talking about. Thank you. So, Town of Cottage City Resolution 2021-04. A resolution of the Cottage City Commission approving the making of Cottage Terrace at the dead end in front of 4222 Cottage Terrace, otherwise known as the Cottage City Community Garden, a loading zone, providing for the erection of all appropriate traffic control sign and notices. I think you need to put an S on the signs, on sign, providing that the town of, and need a space in between town and of, Cottage City Police Department and its designees shall enforce the provisions of this resolution and providing an effective date. So we've heard from Commissioner Young. Are there any other commissioners that'd like to comment on this resolution at this time? Commissioner Armitage or Commissioner Givens? Commissioner Yuri, any comments?
Commissioner Givens, I just think that you all indicated the loading zone to be limited to 2 minutes, and and that just seems like a little bit short. But other than that, I mean, I probably think at least 5 minutes or so. But other than that, I don't have any comments.
I agree with Commissioner Givens. I think 5 or so minutes should be appropriate.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I would say 10 minutes to be honest, because sometimes depending on what you have to do, you may be out there for 10 or 15 minutes packing up your car and stuff.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I think we need to give the gardeners a little bit more time. Especially especially if we're having an event, like when we have Wind Down Wednesday, or we have the upcoming salsa in the garden on Saturday. Cheap plug for those who don't know about it. It's this Saturday. So I know that the committee is going to be, loading and unloading, trying to set up the garden for the event. So yeah, 2 minutes definitely not enough time.
Commissioner Wheatley, the way that the resolution is written, it says a time limit of 30 minutes per vehicle, and the vehicle's four-way flashers must be on at all times.
Okay, 30 minutes is great. Thank you.
Chief Ayers, I think you're breaking up some.
Okay, so Commissioner Armitage says no comment from her.
Although I agree with
sorry.
the additional comments about the time.
Excuse
30
me, can you hear me now?
minutes sounds reasonable to me.
Okay.
This Chief Ayers, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, I apologize. Yeah, it's 30 minutes, and I guess it's to the point where as long as the car is running and we can actually get you back to your car, the officer's not gonna write a citation. With this is the loading zone. As long as we see that you are moving back and forth to your car, and we can get you get in contact with you and see you, we're fine with it. It's not gonna be force like that. It's the point where 30 minutes is what is reasonable. And like I said, officers use discretion in reference to laws. The car is running, and that you're near your car, and you are actually going back and forth with moving things to your car. You won't be.
Commissioner
Okay.
Givens?
Yes,
Commissioner Givens?
Commissioner, go ahead.
Yeah, Chief, with all due respect, we actually have policies in place for the town not to have cars idling. So I wouldn't promote that being a requirement, having the car running, considering environmental situations. I mean, I have no problem with the flashers because I think that's a relative sign that you're there temporarily, but I wouldn't advocate for them to be running. That's just not something I would do. I yield back. Thank you.
That's fair. I mean, as long as the flash is on, I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Any more comments or questions?
Yeah, Bill Kopecki,
Go ahead, Mr. Kopecki.
16 feet is about enough room for 2 cars. I think when you're having an event like the salsa thing, you need more than 2 cars there. That's all. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments right now? Okay, hearing no further comments, we can move.
Are we going to talk about the salsa event later on?
We can.
The reason why is because we're not having everybody parking down in the circle. I think we're going to shuttle people down from the town hall down to that location. So we have the van to shuttle people down to that location, so we won't have so many cars down there.
Yes, that was put on the flyer, I believe, and put in the newsletter. Okay, let's see. Next is new business for Mr. Fred Hill, our volunteer van driver. Ms. Barbara, you want to talk about that one?
Yes, ma'am. So basically, Mr. Hill has volunteered to drive the van for the people who would normally take the bus that Colmar Manor had, since we had suspended usage of that bus until some things could be taken care of. And you all had expressed a desire to give some remuneration to Mr. Hill for his time. And I had polled you all by text message and email, and I think that there was a consensus to pay him $25, I think, an hour. But I just needed to get some final clarity on that and for you all to put that in the record.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Barbara. I think we came to an agreement to the $25 an hour, as you stated. So would you like for us to take a vote? So it can be on record?
Yes, ma'am, I think so.
Okay.
Before you stand by. I think you need to get Mr. I think you got some legal issues here you need to address, and you need to hear from Mr. Best in regards to how does this payment thing work for a volunteer? Mr. Best, could you chime in, please, and give us guidance? Thank you.
Mr. Best?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I think Mr. Chairman or Commissioner Givens framed a question. Obviously, if you pay him, he's not. If you're going to provide remuneration, it becomes a paid position. He's a part-time employee. It's not like he's an independent contractor. I suspect he does not drive buses for a living and has multiple clients that he drives buses for and has his own tools and place of business. So if you're going to change a volunteer to someone that receives some sort of compensation, you're making him a part-time employee. Of course, you have your employment handbook to give you guidance for how to proceed with the part-time employee. And so is there another question or detail that I could help with on that?
No, that's what I was referring to. You actually have to start by taking a vote to hire him and then incorporate the amount that you had kind of tentatively agreed to. I yield back.
Thank you. Any other comments? Was that
I have a
Commissioner
quick
Young?
question.
Young.
Has
Okay,
Mr. Hill been contacted?
hold on, Commissioner Yuri. We're gonna hear from Commissioner Young first, and then we'll hear from Commissioner Yuri. Go ahead, Commissioner
Thank-
Young.
I was just going to make a motion that we pay Mr. Hill $25 an hour, and that he be considered a part-time employee, subject to any requirements relating to that.
Okay, Commissioner Young, before we take the vote or ask for a second.
I can put that off. That's all I was going to say, though. But it may
That's
be
fine.
premature, so never mind.
It's okay. It's okay. So, Commissioner Yuri, you want to go ahead?
I was just going to ask a quick question. Has Mr. Hill been consulted about that, and how does he feel about everything? Is he on board
So I
with the
talked with,
payment?
I'm sorry.
Ms.
Please
Barbara,
continue,
did
Ms.
you want
Barbara.
to answer? Did you want to answer Ms.
Yes.
Yuri's question?
Yes, I was just waiting for her to finish. I didn't want to interrupt. I had talked with Mr. Hill, and Mr. Hill had indicated when I asked him if there was a amount that he would be comfortable with, he said that he would leave it to the discretion of the commissioners. I have not since contacted him about the $25, but I certainly can do that and see if that is an acceptable amount to him.
This Chief Ayers, $25 an hour is more than what my officers make an hour. And if that's so, why can't my officers do it as part-time employment and drive the van for $25 an hour?
Would that, Chief Ayers, would that definitely be taking away from their work time? And if they're doing it outside of their normal hours, wouldn't that constitute?
Well, my sergeant makes $23 an hour. You giving him 25, so he's making more than my sergeant's making an hour.
My question was,
So if my officers are off that day, they can come in and work that up to $25 an hour. I'm not saying that's kind of high. I mean, if he does it for a lower price, I understand that. But $25 an hour.
Wouldn't that constitute?
No, it won't affect it if they're off duty.
Isn't there a limit? Mm-hmm.
They won't come in as an officer. They will come in as an employee working $24 an hour. I mean, my officers can't work part-time until they finish a year and as an officer. But if they can go ahead and have employment for $25 an hour to drive a van, not as a police officer, but as an employee of the town, I don't see why it can be offered to my officers. You don't pay that much. They're not my officers not being paid $25 an hour.
That issue has not been
I'm not
raised
saying
yet.
that,
So, yeah. Well, we're dealing with this
I'm not saying
issue
that
one at a time, and we have, already discussed and moved forward with Mr. Hill's, appointment to this task. But maybe what you're saying, you're raising a good issue. I think, in general, maybe something to be discussed later, but it's never been on the plate. We've all discussed Mr. Hill in this role as of now.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is like a slap in the face to my employer. I'm doing it as a supervisor. If my officer heard you paying somebody $25 an hour, they can't work secondary employment right now, and you paying somebody $25 to drive a van that was going to volunteer first, but they weren't offered that as a chance. I think that's a problem. You're going to pay somebody more than you're paying your officers or any employee you have I just think it's
Are you saying you're wanting to renegotiate your officer's salaries?
No, I'm not saying that.
I think he's objecting to the $25 an hour.
No, I understand what he's saying, but I'm saying, what's the point in, kind of discussing that now when we've, already brought and discussed this several meetings already about Mr. Hill and his appointment to this task?
if we need to
This is Commissioner
renegotiate,
Amashay. Can I interject, please? Chair Wheatley, may I interject?
Yes, go right ahead.
I don't believe that Chief Ayers was in on our conversation about the amount that we were considering paying Mr. Hill, for one. For two, Chief, the reasoning behind offering him 25 is that with the thinking that it's going to be a negligible amount of hours. We're not talking about, an 8-hour shift in a day. It seems like this is something that will probably be 2 to 3 hours at a time. And he's going to be, if my understanding is correct, somewhat on call during certain hours. He also is somebody that has an established relationship with a lot of the seniors in the town due to previous activities. So I totally hear what you're saying. That wasn't something that even crossed my mind. I understand that feels a little bit insulting. But I think the consideration was for the fact that Mr. Hill is an elder. And, like I said, the amount of hours that he would be working would be fairly low. And he is, available. So I am open to, further discussion if the other commissioners think that we should put a pause on this, given the objection.
if I could interject there also.
Chief is raising.
If I could interject also, following up on what Commissioner Emarche says, he needs to be sort of available on an on-call basis. He's also an elder, and so he's not sort of beginning or early in his career. He's a senior, and I think that puts him sort of in a different category, plus the needing to be on call, which I don't think the officers would be able to fulfill. So I think that makes this a sort of separate situation where if it were, a young person and they were working regular hours, I would say you could make that comparison, but I don't think this is a comparison that holds up given his circumstances.
Commissioner, hold on, Chief. Hold on, Chief, because there's been a lot of information that I'm not even privy to. This whole on-call thing is not what was discussed. You all had added in, what we discussed is a set amount of time, 2 days, possibly 3 days. I believe we settled on 2 days. I think Tuesdays and Thursdays or something like that.
It's Mondays and Thursdays from 10 to 2.
Thank you. So all this 2 hours on call and all of that, that's not a part of the conversation. It's not what was discussed. That's not what was agreed upon. So what the chief is saying could be relative if the commission wanted to say, because you know what, Fred might have things that he has to do on some of those things. Perhaps the officer, it could be a thing that they could all kind of come together and work these particular days, kind of rotated or something like that. So I yield back, and I just wanted to make clear that up, though. Thank you.
Commissioner Wheatley, can I just add that I would have to double check in the handbook about dual employment with the town if an officer were to do this, because there was some question when we did the handbook. I don't have the handbook in front of me right now, but there was some question about whether or not there would ever be an instance where there would be a dual employment for an employee. So I would have to check what that says about that.
It's allowed. It's allowed in the handbook.
Yeah. Oh, this Chief Ayers, maybe I overstepped myself. I'm not saying for my officer to do it. I'm just saying in reference to the amount. Now, if you go ahead and say what he's doing Monday and Tuesday, say, okay, every time he works, he gets a $50 stipend. That's different than saying $25 an hour. I'm just saying that the way it sounds is going to be a problem, because to get back to my officers that, this person is making more than they are for doing something that, they can do, is an issue for me. I'm just getting in front of this wagon real quick. If you will say that, okay, he works Mondays and Thursdays, so if he works those days, he would get a stipend of $50. That's fine. when you start talking about $25 an hour, no employee in the town makes more than $24 an hour except for 3 people. And to go ahead and give her an hourly rate to a person for $25 an hour, I kind of like think it's a slap in the face of our employees. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Chief. Hearing from everybody so far, I can see it from all points, and I tend to agree with most of what's been said. One thing I will say, I didn't think it was $25 an hour. I know, Ms. Barber, you asked how much we wanted to pay him on an hourly rate, but in the beginning, I have to agree with Commissioner Givens and what Chief said. I thought we said we were giving him a donation or a stipend for volunteering. I didn't think we were bringing him on board as an employee, because originally he was driving the van. He was going to drive the van for our seniors to take them to get vaccinated. And that was definitely going to be a volunteer situation. We had not spoken about any kind of stipend or anything. But then as the conversation went on, we did say, well, maybe we should give him a donation or a stipend or something, because he was volunteering his time. And it was going to be with the vaccine, it was going to be kind of, we were trying to set up a schedule if we could set it up with a particular vaccination site, but that kind of didn't work out. But then the situation came with the Port Town bus. And so we said, well, we already had Fred set up for driving the van. Maybe we could use him for this situation. He agreed to do it. And so as the conversation went on, then we started that's when the conversation came up about maybe offering him something for his time and trouble. So I think if we change it from hourly rate to, say, a stipend, that it probably would go over better. So
I guess you would have to ask Mr. Best how that would work then. You'd have to ask Mr. Best how that would work.
Mr. Best, could we do that?
Yes, you can. You don't have to pay him an hourly rate. You could either have an oral agreement or a written agreement to have him paid in a different fashion. But I will say, particularly since he's going to be driving members of the public or townspeople in a government vehicle, it's very important that if he's going to do this as a volunteer without remuneration, it needs to be placed in your record that you've appointed him to do this, so that he'll enjoy some indemnification and insurance protection from the town. You don't want to hang him out there to dry if he wrecks the vehicle and kills someone. So you need to make sure the record shows that he is a bona fide appointed official or an employee of the town.
Well, we do have him under our insurance. We took care of that, correct, Ms. Barber?
He's listed as a volunteer.
Under the insurance for driving the vehicle.
Yes.
Well, just because you do that with legit doesn't make it so. You have to when you conduct public business, you do it in a public meeting. So you have to have the best way to do it is put a formal motion in your record so that you can, in the future, if a court of law says we need to see the appointment authority, you can pull out some minutes or a journal from so many months ago and show, yes, he was duly appointed and the vote was 3-4, 2 against, or whatever it was, so that he's either an appointed official of the town or an employee of the town. He can be non-compensated appointed official. He can be a compensated part-time employee. He can be a compensated part-time contractual employee. I mean, you need to decide which of these options you're going to pursue, but it's very important that you dot your I's and cross your T's for liability reasons with this, with Fred driving this vehicle.
Thank you, Mr. Best.
Sure.
So I think we need to decide how we're going to move forward with this one.
Commissioner Wheatley, may I speak?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
So we can negotiate what type of employee he'll be, but I think one of the biggest issues that the chief brought up was that it's more about the amount that we're giving him. So, I mean, if we move him to official or non-official, whatever the different parameters are, if we're giving him the same amount, that raises the same issue with his officers. you know, so I think the issue that, you know, Chief Ayers is looking for us to discuss is the amount that we're giving for
No,
the
not the
position,
amount.
and because you're saying it's $25 an hour. So
I'm not saying, no, I'm not disputing how much you're paying him. It's the wording. If you say, well, every Monday he would get $50 stipend, that's better. That means 2 hours, $25 an hour. I care less how much you make an hour. The problem is the wording. I don't want my officers to hear that he's getting $25 an hour. So if you want to do a stipend for $50 every time he works, then
so more clarity.
Yes.
You want it more specified so that it doesn't have any negative feedback. I understand
There
that.
you go. That's all I want.
So as long as it doesn't come back as saying $24 an hour, not stipulating that it's only 2 or 3 hours, it makes it sound like he's working more than he is. I see. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's all I want. I'm not trying to stop a man from getting paid. It's a point where I just don't want to have any headaches on the back end of employees being disgruntled because of this, because word gets out.
Commissioner Givens.
So,
okay, thank you for clarifying.
So if I could just speak for a second,
Hold on,
Mr.
Commissioner.
Best,
Hold on, Commissioner Young. Commissioner Givens, you were going to say something, then Commissioner Young, you can go. Go ahead, Commissioner Givens.
Okay, so here we go again, talking about 2 hours and $50. That's not what's on the table. So stop talking about that because you confuse people. Have the conversation based on what's reality. The reality is Ms. Barber has stipulated that the days are Monday, I think she said Monday and Thursday. And there were, how many hours is that, Ms. Barber? Because it wasn't 2.
10 to 2.
10 to 2. So that's 4 hours. So let's talk about 4 hours. If you're going to do a stipend, I personally, I'm against it. And here is why. Because while you're using this based on, you know, I don't believe that you should create policy and things like this based on some random act. I think that it should be based on anyone who steps in these roles, because at the end of the day, we want to be able to hold people accountable. You're asking someone to drive a vehicle twice a week and hold them accountable to that. But what if they say, well, you know, I don't have time to do it anymore and whatever. And so you might have to switch that, or well, I can't do it that day. I mean, it's more problematic when you can hold people accountable when they're employees, but when they're volunteers, you're at the mercy of what it is at the time that they have. So, you know, I don't have any problem compensating. Like I said, I advocated for $20 an hour. It was, you know, it was posed, I was outnumbered to 25, and that's what it is. That, you know, I was just outvoted. But I do still believe that you need to be able to have someone in that position that you can hold accountable. But whatever you all decide to do, then you do it at, you know, you can go ahead and proceed forward. I yield back.
Commissioner Young.
well, what I was going to suggest is and asking Mr. Best to check me on this as I speak, but that we appoint, if that's the right word, Mr. Hill to drive the bus on Mondays and Thursdays from 10 to 2, and that we give him a stipend of $100 for each day that he drives. And if that would be satisfactory with the chief and with Mr. Best, then I guess I would go ahead and make a motion to that effect. And I guess for Mr. Best, that would cover him in insurance, and that would cover the town legally. That's a question.
Mr. Best.
Sorry about that. There was some reverberation from another caller and I missed part of what she said, so I apologize for that.
I said that if this is appropriate, I would make the motion that we appoint Mr. Hill to drive the bus on Mondays and Thursdays from 10 to 2, maybe I should add, or as needed, and that we give him a stipend of $100 for Mondays and Thursdays. And if that covers him and us him for the insurance and us legally, then I would go ahead and make that motion.
Yeah, it seems an appropriate motion if it's needed. You haven't done it in the past. You can also have it written up in the form of a written resolution and adopted that way. But that if he's driving now and has been driving, and you haven't in the past appointed him officially, and during one of your business meetings, you definitely want to do that as soon as possible.
I don't know whether
he hasn't driven yet. The first appointment is for tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
Well, due to the exigency, you probably want to do an oral motion and then appoint him and put all the terms that you've just mentioned into the motion. And he will be, I assume he's going to be, considered a part-time employee. And so he's entitled to certain benefits of a part-time employee in the employee handbook, unless you sign a contract with him.
Okay, well, I'll try this again. If I can remember what I said before.
Can I just interject for a question, please? I just have a quick question. What if the appointment doesn't take the full 4 hours? What if if it's only one appointment like it is tomorrow, that's only going to take 2 hours? Is he going to still get the full $100 for 2 hours worth of time?
Maybe we could change the motion to a stipend of up to $100 per day that he works.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question real quick, Ms. Barber? Did you say he works Monday through Thursday or
Mondays
and Thursday?
and Thursdays. Mondays and Thursdays.
Okay, so he works 2 days a week.
Yes.
Okay. At 4 hours per day. So that 8 hours. Up to 8 hours. $100. Okay. Okay, Commissioner Young, did you want to try your motion again?
I'll try. Okay. I move that we appoint Fred Hill to drive our bus, community bus, on 2 days a week or as needed, and that he be provided with a stipend of up to $100 on the days that he drives. And if that's okay with Kevin, that's my motion.
So can I ask another question, Ann? So are you saying $100 per day, meaning 200 a week?
Up to that amount. So that if he did work the whole 4 hours, then the stipend could be $100. But if he didn't, we wouldn't have to make the stipend that much.
Okay, so let's say he works 4 hours Monday and he works 4 hours on Thursday. So that would be 100 on Monday and 100 on Thursday. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand the motion. Okay.
I think that's what I said.
I know we've been going kind of back and forth and around with this one. Okay, so you made the motion. Is there a second for Commissioner Young's motion?
I second Commissioner Omarche.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let's see if there's no further discussion.
No, there's more discussion. I'm still confused because it still hasn't been established. And Kevin had indicated something about a part-time employee. Is he a part-time employee or is he a volunteer? I'm still not, because you guys aren't indicating any of that in your motion. And I think that, like Kevin said, there needs to be something needs to be established in that regard. So, Kevin?
Commissioner Young, did you say appoint Didn't you say appointment as a part-time employee, or did you say something else?
I didn't specify. I said appoint, but I didn't say part-time employee. But if I need to, I'm glad to amend it that way.
Okay.
I just figured that would be worked out, and I was trying to make it sort of open-ended and with the specifications to be added later.
And the other thing,
however I need to make it, I'll be glad to make it.
well, the other thing, Kevin had indicated that there's certain things along in the employee handbook that he would be entitled to. If you do not want to exercise that entitlement, then you probably need to have a discussion with him prior to doing all of this, but also have it written out in some type of employment contractual agreement. I yield back.
So why don't we do this?
I
Why
could
don't you make the motion, and then Miss Barbara, you get with Mr. Hill tomorrow, and you guys can do a contract to stipulate what he would be considered.
Okay, so if you're going to if you're going to appoint him as a part-time employee, we have to run that through payroll, is my understanding, and it cannot be a stipend. If Kevin could just clarify that, because if you're doing a stipend, then the stipend is for a appointed official, is my understanding, and the salary is for a part-time employee. We don't have any employees that get a stipend.
Let's change the motion to appointment as a town official to drive the bus. Can we do that, Mr. Best?
Yeah, normally, if you're going to appoint him to be basically an appointed official, a committee member, you don't have to pay him. There's plenty of people in municipal government that are appointees that enjoy indemnification and protections without being compensated. But you want to compensate and you want to give them a stipend. Normally stipends go to people like you invite professors or people to come and give a speech. You might pay them a stipend. You don't have an employee-employer relationship or an appointee municipal relationship. You don't have that when you're paying a stipend typically. I know sometimes connotations of the word stipend are thrown around and used to indicate for example, what a commissioner might get paid as a stipend. But it's a salaried situation that you're receiving compensation for. So long story short, I know you're in a crunch. So what you might want to do is vote to appoint him now as a volunteer, and then you can hammer out and negotiate a contract later, or you can decide to hire him. You normally don't appoint employees. You hire them, you engage their employment. So I hope that's as clear as mud.
I don't know. I don't know if that was clear or not.
Just if it helps, if you all want to take more time to deliberate on this, I can make sure that the individual who has set up the time for the appointment gets to their appointment tomorrow. If you all are okay with it, I can make sure that they get to their appointment tomorrow by driving them in the town car. And you all can take more time if you needed to hammer this out, or if you want to hammer it out tonight, then that's fine.
Well, the only thing is that we take a special meeting if we don't. I was thinking hammer out enough for a motion tonight, and then put it in your hands, Ms. Barber, to work out the details with Mr. Best on the employment.
Well, let me just say this. It sounds like you want him to be paid and compensated for his time tomorrow. So entertain a motion to hire him as a part-time employee, and then you can change his status later on to a contractual employee or an appointed official as you see fit. But if you're in a crunch and you want to compensate him for his time tomorrow, hire him as a part-time employee right now.
May I ask a question, particularly to Commissioner Givens? Is there any reason that you prefer a certain way of wording it? Like, is there a reason that you prefer like a volunteer versus part-time employee? Because I think Mr. Best is kind of like clear on the different stipulations between volunteer and part-time employee. You know, even if we call him volunteer, technically his status is more, you know, under the, I guess, the criteria of part-time employees. So did you have any objection to that? Was there a reason?
Yeah, I as I've stated before, my reasoning for employee over volunteer is, like I come and volunteer to put up the gazebo, but you guys don't have any authority over me to tell me to go on Tuesdays and do it. You know what I'm saying? I do it as my time kind of wasn't. I will do it based on making sure that I try to work with Greg and them to make sure that they're available when I'm working over there. But so the point is that while you're basing this off of Fred, I don't do policy, and I don't think it's a good practice to base policy off of personal relationships. I think that you base policy off of the norm, like off of a general person. So if you hire someone as a part-time employee, if you have people that have appointments and Fred forgets, he oversleeps, he says, you know what, I got something else to do. You don't have any recourse, right? So I mean, yeah, you can. And if you do that a couple of times, then it becomes problematic for what you're trying to do in the general good that you're trying to do with the bus thing. But again, that's my position, and you guys have your position, so I yield back.
I understand what you're saying. It's more binding. And I think that's the reason why when we first began the conversation, I asked Ms. Barber if she had spoken to Mr. Hill to kind of fill out what his degree of comfort is. I guess there's more, there's more of a binding agreement with the part-time employees. So we would kind of have to spell out that, the difference between the two are A, B, and C. It's more of an obligation or whatever the case is under this criteria. So, Ms. Barber, is that possible for you to kind of have a follow-up discussion with Mr. Hill? I think that's a good way to kind of resolve this and see, we are kind of moving him a little bit from the volunteer to the part-time, and we kind of have to spell out a little bit, what the responsibilities are a little better.
Yeah, I think.
Could I just add something? Before you answer, could I just add something? I think we were also wanting to make it a stipend so that it would not be considered a salary that the police officers would be offended by. And I thought that that's why we were appointing him, so that we could, what we give him would be a stipend. If my understanding on that was wrong, feel free to correct me, but could you take that also into account, Ms. Barber?
Well, I think so. I think the wording also, I think we agreed with Chief Ayers that we would kind of spell out the times and make it clear that it's not full-time, that he's not being compensated for some full-time employee at that rate. And that was the resolution, with reporting it back to the police department or anyone hearing about that.
I think that it would be wise to contact Mr. Hill tomorrow to see if he would want to even be considered as a part-time employee, if that's the way that you all are going to leave. Because there, even as a part-time employee, there are some documentation we have to have on the books for the I-9 and for payroll in order to run the checks through payroll. And I'm not sure if he would want to do that because of the taxes situation. And I don't know what his situation is, but I don't know if he would want to have any taxable income So that would be a question that, he would have to answer.
I think for tonight, though, what Mr. Best was saying, that we make the motion as a part-time employee, and it's just temporary, so we can get the motion through, so that he can do the appointment tomorrow. As Mr. Best said, we can go back and change it at a later time. And I think we do need to resolve it tonight.
Well,
But
okay, so
if I could,
hold on, Ann. You don't have to hire him as a part-time employee tonight. What Mr. Best says is you need to do some type of official action to have him appointed. So right now,
That's not what I said, Commissioner Givens. I didn't say hire him. I said make the motion as a part-time employee, just to get the motion through. That's what I said. I said exactly what Mr. Best said.
okay, but if you make a motion, that whole thing is, your ultimate goal is to go ahead and pass the motion, ultimately hiring him as a part-time employee. So here's the thing. I think what we need to consider is, at this point, at this juncture, first of all, I think Ms. Barber has made a very specific point. You don't even know if that's what he wants, because that's not what he agreed to. He agreed to do this as a volunteer thing. So I think what we probably should do, along with Mr. Best, is go ahead and appoint him as a volunteer to officially drive the bus. That gives him legal authority to act within that realm, to do that. And then we can discuss, then you all have the ability to go back to Mr. Hill and discuss further as to his legal position or whatever there, if what he wants to do with it. But it also gives us coverage, and that he was driving the bus and he was appointed in the appropriate way. And it's only one time. He was going to do it for free anyway. So, I mean, one time, one appointment is not the end of the world, but it does give us this ability to have some room. Does anyone have a problem with that? I mean, I can't.
No, I don't think any of us have a problem with it, but what I said was what Mr. Best said, and he said part-time employee. He didn't say volunteer. So I just used the words that he
let me
used.
clarify. No. I said part-time employee if you insist on paying him. I think the cleanest way to do this, based on what Consuela said, is to just appoint him as a volunteer with no compensation. If you want to retroactively pay him later for his time tomorrow, that's fine. But I think the cleanest, easiest way is simply entertain a motion to appoint him to be the town bus driver for a day or a week or a month or whatever period of time you want. Then you can go back later and change his status and pay him retroactively if you need to be.
and that would protect the town and him in terms of
Yes.
his insurance.
Yeah, you need
Okay.
to get into the record that he's an appointed official of the town, so he can enjoy the same immunities you all do as for your
Okay.
employees and your appointed officials and your elected officials. You want him to enjoy those same immunities as he drives the bus, particularly since he may be doing this, and that's another reason why you need to make a decision, make him an employee or not, because if he's doing this for a period of time every day, you need to have his status locked on and in the record, so that he is protected and indemnified. But
Okay, so just to get him through tomorrow, I'll remake my motion. I move that we appoint Mr. Fred Hill as a volunteer to drive the bus. And I think from what you just said that should cover it. Right?
I think
Honestly, I don't know if it covers it or not, and we've talked about this so much, I feel like we've gone around in circles. Is there a second?
Kevin, you think that covers it?
Yes.
I mean, can I just ask a question for clarification? Sorry, I agree, Wanda. We've gone a little bit in circles. This is Commissioner Amarche. I just want to make sure I understand correctly. So what you're proposing, Kevin, is we're making this motion right now to appoint him as a volunteer to drive the bus so that he can take the people to appointments tomorrow, whoever has been committed to take to an appointment tomorrow. And then
Right.
we can award him a stipend for that afterwards, and then further deliberate as to whether we take him on as a part-time employee, et cetera, and modify the arrangement in the near future. That's what you're saying, right?
Right, right.
That's exactly right. And you know, what's important, he needs to be protected and indemnified. And that's a volunteer can get that, an employee can get. I think that's the best route you need to go. And I'm sorry, you've gone around in circles in part because I had no forewarning of this issue. Had I talked about this maybe yesterday or early this morning, we could have saved you all several minutes of debate and haranguing. So, you know, this is one of those situations where when you shoot from the hip, sometimes you waste time.
Okay, so do I need to restate that, or can we move forward?
I can
My
give a
motion
second
is-
if that's okay.
My motion is that we appoint Mr. Fred Hill to be a volunteer to drive the community bus starting tomorrow. And this may be amended later as required.
I second.
Thank you. Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Uri, aye.
Aye. Mamashe.
Commissioner Givens, aye.
Commissioner Wheatley, aye. Motion passes.
All right.
Okay, that was a long one. Let's see. What's next? Okay, employee appreciation summer event. Miss Barbara, did you want to take that one or did you want me to take it? What did you want to do with that one?
You can take it.
Okay. So I was thinking, since we have these great, fabulous new gazebos, compliments of Commissioner Givens and our Public Works Department and all the hard work that they put in, that I was thinking as a nice way to kind of do a grand opening of our new gazebos is if we did a appreciation barbecue for our staff, just to let them know that we appreciate all their hard work over the last year and a half during the pandemic, because we know we've all had to do some extra stuff to keep this town going. So I was thinking, hey, why don't we do something at the gazebo? So I kind of ran it past the commissioners. I think the majority of you agreed that it was a nice idea. Of course, we wouldn't ask the staff to cook because, you know, that wouldn't be fair. So I was thinking maybe we could get it catered. We could probably use the same caterer we used for Black History Month. She was very reasonable and her food was delicious. Or if anyone is good on the grill, maybe we can, as commissioners, you know, help out on the grill. I know Commissioner Givens, you're pretty good on the grill. I'm not too bad. But I was just thinking it's a way to say thank you to our employees. So that was my idea. And I was just wondering if anyone was in agreement.
This is Commissioner Amashe.
I agree.
Love the idea.
This is Commissioner Young. I agree.
Great. So do we want, you agree, Commissioner Givens? Thank you. Commissioner, did we lose Commissioner Uri? I don't see her
Yes,
anymore.
here. I'm
You're here?
sorry, I'm here. I had to switch phones. I agree, yes.
Okay, so since we're in agreement, I guess we need to pick a date. And do we want to get it catered with the lady that did the Black History Month dinner? Or do we want to do the grill? I mean, since we're going to have the gazebo and the nice, pretty grill that Commissioner Givens was able to get for us.
No, Commissioner Givens, I don't have a problem with you catering it. And, you know, if she needs to use the grill, it could be there for her or to keep her food warm or whatever. But yeah, I don't want to overburden commissioners, including myself, who might have other things to do. You know.
Okay. So Miss Barbara, looks like we're going to have it catered. And if I sent you her contact information. So I guess we just need to pick a day.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Commissioner Givens, I would surmise that you probably want to speak to the employees and find out, or, and talk to administration, find out what may be best. But I don't think anytime in August is going to be good because of the heat wave that we're about, that we're coming up on. So no one really wants to be out there in that heat like that. So perhaps sometime in September. But I would, like I said, I'd run it by the staff first.
My
Okay, Ms.
suggestion of a logical sounding day, and of course Consuela can chime in, but it seems like a Friday afternoon maybe might be a nice way to end the week, Friday afternoon in September.
That sounds good. So Ms. Barbara, if you could get some dates from the employees and then see which day the caterer would be available to work,
Yes, ma'am.
that would be nice. Let's see. All right. Okay, what's next on our agenda? Okay, town manager update. Ms. Barber, there was a question in the chat from Mr. Brooks.
Yes, ma'am.
So I believe that his question is, are the employees reviewed, their hourly rate reviewed annually? And we do that when we do
At the budget.
Yeah, we do that.
So
I hope that answered Mr. Brooks' question.
Commissioner Givens, before we move to
Go ahead, Commissioner Givens. Are you on mute?
Oh, Commissioner Givens, yes. So before we move, they're still on the new business. Before we move on to the next topic, I'd like to discuss the additional funding needed for the gazebo, and so that we can take a vote up or down on what we're going to do.
Was that about the stones or something? The covering of the
Yeah,
grill?
it's about a number of things to complete the grill. So to complete that whole venture. So what's needed is, what's still outstanding just to get the facility open, is we still need to seal the pavers so that they're protected, so they don't we need to put some type of facade on the grill, and also do a roof covering over the grill area, because it protects that as well as protects the current gazebo there from the sun. And so what I was advocating is that with the additional $1,000, we could do all of that, and that would give us a basic opening of the facility and be complete and nice. And so I know there were some other ideas that were kind of thrown out about other facade to the grill, but I would still advocate that we do a cultured stone, and probably find it used, which would be a little bit cheaper, but we would, than spending the $600, perhaps $500 to $600 for that covering. So I yield back.
Do you have any numbers?
Yes, $1,000 should cover all of just the basic opening. So not any additional ideas that you had discussed about before, like did I have any numbers regards to that? And I said that let's get it open, and that any other ideas that I would pitch those later, and see if the commission wanted to pursue other things to perhaps do other things like bench seating or bar types areas in there, and or water features and stuff like that. But that's not what I'm advocating now. Those are I'm just advocating to get enough products and materials to get the gazebo area and outdoor kitchen open and ready for use.
Excuse me. So $1,000 would cover the pavers, and you said the facade for the grill?
the facade for the grill and the roofing for the
Oh, and the
grill.
roof.
The roof, right, that's correct. That's correct.
Did you send
Now
us
that-
pictures?
I did. I sent it to you before, and I texted to you guys before, and I'm not sure. I mean, I could text it back to you guys again, but I was gonna say something. I just lost it. But but that $1,000 is not incorporated into the $300 that you had already indicated you wanted for the benches. So that's separate. You had already laid that out, that's what you had wanted. The benches that you wanted to buy for the picnic benches that you wanted to buy to place inside there, because that also could be utilized in various venues.
Okay, so right now we have the gazebos, but we don't have tables, right? We don't have any seating area under the gazebo.
They hadn't picked it up yet. I think they had identified, if I'm not mistaken, Greg can speak to it more specifically, but they had identified benches at Lowe's, I believe, for either 150 or 160 or something to that effect. And based on those numbers, because they used to be $100, but they went up. So we talked about doing 3 benches, but I think 2 benches, could suffice for now, especially since we're at the end of the season, where you might get some use out of it, which we'd like to get it up and running by next week. But you wouldn't have like anything probably past October. Yield back.
Okay, so the 300, that was separate. So we've already agreed to that, right? The 300 for the benches and the table, and the picnic table. We already agreed to that.
That's correct.
So we need you're asking for an additional $1,000.
That's correct.
To cover these other expenses.
That's correct. And I do that based on, Greg mentioned, and I think it was a valid point that I just overlooked. We need to make sure that these things are low maintenance. Greg and the Public Works Department have their hands full, and I don't want to continue to give them more added as we open up this particular venture, more responsibilities. And also, and on a side note, I think that I'd like to advocate that, and this was brought to my attention by Greg as well. Initially, I was not for charging anyone for the gazebos, to utilize the gazebos. I was kind of like first come, first serve. And, but, after thinking about it, and him kind of bringing up some good points, that what that does, it's not even about the money. You can charge somebody $25, but the fact that they registered, and paid that $25 gives you holding someone accountable for that location. If it's not clean, if it's trash all about, and perhaps you could even do a deposit. But, if you just do like first come, first serve, there could be an argument as to who was here first. The same person is doing it every week, because they're getting there at 8 o'clock, and that becomes different sets of problems. So, and so my position has changed on that after, was brought to these issues were brought to my attention. So this is something that the commission might want to consider as to how we want to put that in play, because I know that you mentioned this was initially for the employees, and they were a part of the conversation. I never built this for the employees. They were a part of the conversation in that what I said was, as an addition to renting out the town hall, this could be an additional caveat to the town hall. I said we could also use it for our events when we have events up here at the town hall, because we do a number of them at the town hall. And also the employees don't really have anywhere to have their lunch. So perhaps they could come out and utilize this facility for their to eat their lunch or do things. So it's an inclusive thing that it's kind of grown, and it's been, but I still advocate and support and ask that everyone support. At the end of the day, we are here for the residents, and this is an asset to the town, which makes the town look better. People drive by, they see it, and that's what, so I yield back. I don't say anymore. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion from the commission?
I don't know if there's any discussion, but if not, I can go ahead and move that we approve the $1,000 for the paver ceiling and the stones for the front of the grill and the roof for the grill.
I second. If there's no further discussion, I'm in support.
Hearing no further discussion, it has been properly motioned and seconded. Is there, we'll take, I'll entertain the vote now. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Givens,
Aye.
aye.
Aye, Marche.
Commissioner Yuri, aye.
Commissioner Wheatley, aye. Hearing no opposed or nays, the motion passes.
Thank you, everyone.
Ms. Barber, you're up under town manager update.
Yes, ma'am. So the first item on there is the authorization to issue the RFP for the playground. You all had worked very diligently on getting some information about the playground and what we have to do because of the amount of the playground and our purchasing policy is to put this out to an RFP. But it did come to my attention that through MML, and it's a purchasing consortium called Omnia. Oh, I think it's OMNIA. It's on their website. There are some companies that have already been vetted through this purchasing consortium that we could use without going toward a formal bid. So I wanted to see if that would be something that you all would be interested in. None of the companies that you all had talked to are on that purchasing consortium. So if you all are satisfied with the ones that you had talked to and had want them to entertain through the RFP, we can certainly go through the RFP process. It's just your preference of what you'd like to do at this point.
Okay, so the RFP has not gone out yet.
No, ma'am, I have to get permission from you all to issue the RFP. It's written, but it hasn't gone out. And it would only be out for a couple of weeks just because you all have worked so diligently with the other vendors, and the vendors have already, my understanding, submitted to you all some renderings that they could, put forth with the RFP. So I don't anticipate that it would need to be out for very long.
So the renderings that they submitted it to the commission or to certain individuals? Because I haven't seen it.
Oh, I think it was just to the subcommittee that was working on it.
Okay, well, can the rest of us see it?
Well,
I have the book.
yeah, I think
But I
if you
haven't
want to
seen
do
the
the
proposals.
right, if you want to do the RFP, what we would ask in the RFP is that they submit 2 renderings through the RFP process, and then you all could select from those vendors through the RFP process.
I think we should go ahead and put the RFP out.
Okay.
How do other commissioners feel?
Commissioner Givens,
I'll go along with the majority and with those who've worked on it. I don't have a strong view one way or the other.
Commissioner Givens, I don't have any problem with that.
Commissioner Yuri, I have no opposition to it.
Same, Commissioner Amarche.
Okay, thanks everyone. Ms. Barber.
Okay, so I'll get with Mr. Best to make sure that it meets all the legal sufficiency, and we'll issue the RFP for the playground. The next thing is the sidewalk RFP update.
Commissioner Wheatley,
Yes.
I just wanted to ask Ms. Barbara a question. With the RFP going out, does that still allow us to be able to get any additional monies through the grants that they are providing for matching?
The matching grants, I don't know if that would work with that one company, Game Time. I would have to see how that would work through the RFP process. I'm not sure. I mean, it's an application that you apply for, and if they submit, it's only to certain place systems. So if they submitted those place systems and the commission liked those place systems, then we would apply for the grant to go along with the matching grants. to go along with the funds that were already allocated to us from the open space grant. But if they didn't submit those play systems with their true renderings, then no.
Okay.
Moving on with the sidewalk RFP update, just wanted to let you all know that I had touched base with Denise Ross from the County Executive's Office, and she did check in with DHCD, the Department of Housing and Community Development, that we had been working with about our sidewalk grant. And what they essentially said when we asked Ms. Ross to intervene on our behalf to see why they had not had the opportunity to move forward with our project, they indicated that there were some staffing issues and that there were some procedural issues that would delay the project until October at the earliest. So that's where we're looking at with the project. Fortunately for us, the RFP that we did and the bid that we got back, I think, Greg, if I'm correct, it was valid until the end of the year. So we should still be fine on pricing with that bidder. But the project is delayed until at least October because of the delay for DHCD in approving the project. There is a public comment period that they mentioned that has to occur, and we're hoping that that can occur in September. Then that they can help us move forward with the project in October.
Is this for the sidewalk on Bladensburg Road?
No, ma'am, this is for the sidewalks throughout the town.
Okay, so Ms. Ross she didn't get back to you about the bridge yet?
The information that I got about the bridge was just essentially an update that stated the same thing, that, Prince George's County owns the bridge and that they were in the process of working with State Highway in correcting the, the design of the bridge, and that they were going to be working in unison, but that the design had to take place first.
So we still don't have a time frame?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes,
go ahead.
The sidewalk RFP, that covers all the things that Mr. Pinckney and I and the woman from, I don't remember where she was from, looked at in terms of the low places and the grading. Am I wording that right, Greg?
Yes, that area is covered under this particular grant.
Great, thank you. Can I just ask Greg another question following up on that? Or I could, remember when we took that tour, we talked about leveling out the alley between 40th and 38th and bringing it all the way up to the paved area to address the drainage problem there. I assume that doesn't cover that area, but is there anything else that covers that area?
We don't have anything that covers that particular area at the moment. I'm still working on getting pricing on how we can fix that issue, but nothing that we have, no grants that we have right now covers that area.
But you're working on it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Ms. Barber?
Just one last thing, I'm under the town manager update. Two last things, I apologize. Excuse me. the September meetings, I didn't know if you all wanted to cancel the work session. I think when you look at the calendar for September, the work session meeting is the day before the actual scheduled meeting, the way that the week falls, the first Tuesday and the second Wednesday are back to back. So I didn't know if you all wanted to cancel either the work session or if you still wanted to have it.
I don't have a
Commissioner-
preference. It's okay with me if we cancel.
Commissioner Gibbons, I'm okay with the canceling it. Just probably want to keep it, the schedule short so that we're not there all night during the actual town meeting.
I would
Okay.
agree, except that if there's anything on the agenda that that requires some extended looking at things and talking, I'd hate to leave everything to just one night. But if we can avoid that, I'm fine with it.
Commissioners Yuri and Amiche?
Agreed.
Commissioner Yuri, I'm okay with canceling as well.
Okay, Ms. Barber, you said you had one more thing?
Yes, ma'am. Miss Shirley Lewis contacted me yesterday and today about an opportunity for residents in the town. You all may recall that back in 2019, there was a senior camp that an opportunity was afforded to us by the DC Park and Rec for our residents to participate in the camp. I think it's called Camp Riverwalk. And they are extending that opportunity on August the 20th for a one-day trip down there on bus coach for the residents of Cottage City to participate in that. And Ms. Lewis just wanted me to share that information that it would be leaving from the Theodore Hagen's facility in Washington, DC at 8:30 in the morning sharp. And if there were any residents who were interested in doing this, that they could give me a call and I could make sure that their information gets to the young man in DC Park and Recs that is setting this up. So she just wanted me to let you all know and to let the residents know about that.
What's the cost?
No cost.
This will probably be one of those things that if we're having to shuttle people over to the takeoff location, that we probably want to see if Mr. Hill is available. If you get a number of people that don't have transportation to the location, I yield back.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Barber. Someone in the chat asked if you could repeat what the excursion is.
It's a excursion to, I believe it's called Camp Riverwalk, and it's a nature preserve that's in, I don't know exactly which county it's in. Miss Lewis told me, but I forgot. But it is a nature preserve that's about an hour and a half away from the Theodore Hagen's site in DC. And it's just an opportunity for seniors and individuals to fellowship together. I believe they're providing lunch and to get into the outdoors, into nature. It's a beautiful location, according to Ms. Lewis, and very serene. And it's an opportunity for people to get away for the day.
Residents of Cottage City have also, senior residents of Cottage City have also participated in the senior camp excursion for a few years now. So it's something that, residents have participated in, but I think it went on hold last year because of the COVID pandemic, but we're considering picking it back up again.
Thank you, Miss Barbara. Was that it for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Pinckney, are you ready? Public Works?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
So I have a couple different updates just before I get to the Brown. One, we did receive our tree permit from DNR. This is something that, as Mr. Best had stated, that we needed to have. We had it in the past. I think when Ms. Shannon was here, she used to always just put it in and nobody knew that she was putting it in because we had a tree company who was our tree company for the town. So she would just fill out the paperwork and send it in. And they did state that for a long time we had a good relationship, and somewhere down the line, that relationship kind of disappeared. So when we traced it back, it was around the time Ms. Shannon left. But I did get the application in, and I was able to obtain the roadside blanket permit for the rest of this year. And then I'll be putting in another one for next year, towards the end of this year. With that said, the person right now on our attached to this permit to be our tree care provider or our certified arborist is American Landscaping, who has been cutting out trees for the past, I want to say 3 or 4 years. They are in the process of cutting a tree in town now that we put out to get requests, proposals in, and we chose them to do the work. I am asking the commission if we could, at this point, take a vote or make it final that American Landscaping will be our arborist, our tree arborist, permanently, for at least for now, or until we can either do it until the end of this permit and then redo it again at the next permit. I don't know how you guys want to word that, but I'm requesting that the commission make American Landscaping our tree arborist, certified tree arborist for maintenance in our trees.
Okay,
May
you
I
want to
speak?
go ahead, Commissioner?
Mr. Pickney, so what is the length of time that you said through the permitted time? That's what you're requesting?
I'm requesting that they become our permanent certified tree arborists for the town.
But you mentioned for a specific time frame. You said through the time that it's permitted or for something along those lines?
Based on what the commission wants to do, whether they just want to do it for this particular permit and then reassess or do something different for the next year's permit. Either way, every year I have to put in for a permit, and I have to list who the certified tree arborist is. I have to put it on that permit.
Well, if you ask me, I think it's best to see if we like the work in trimming the trees and how everything is dealt with, and then maybe we can negotiate afterwards if you ask me for my perspective on that.
I can't say for the last, I want to say it's probably been 5 years that they've been doing it. When it comes down to cutting trees, they're second to none. They cut down the trees. They're real professional. They do trees that guys won't even go up in the climb up into trees and do work that guys wouldn't even climb up into the trees and do. And then even with some of the proposals that we have received with moving the remaining stump grindings and stuff like that, a lot of companies don't do that. They do that. They put down the seed, the corlax. They do a lot more than a lot of other companies would do, and their work is phenomenal when it comes down to cutting trees.
That's good to know.
I have a question. This is Commissioner Young.
Mhm.
I don't have any problem with your doing that, but we probably need to make sure with Mr. Best that it's okay to override the bid requirements, which that would pretty much do, right?
Well, not necessarily, because the last 3 times that we've went to go get a proposal for trees, 3 estimates for trees, American Landscaping has been the one that we chose. And for trees, it's not like the landscaping where you can get a proposal and they give you it based off of how many cuts or anything like that. For a proposal, I mean, for the arborist, you actually have to identify a tree, have companies come out and look at that one particular tree or 5 particular trees or whatever, get the pricing off of it. And if you like their pricing, you can choose them as your arborist, because every tree is going to be a different price. And they don't
Right,
give you a price based off
I
of
agree with you.
yeah.
I think it's a good idea. The only thing I wanted to make sure with Kevin is whether whether it's okay to do this in light of the bidding requirements in our code. That's all.
Okay.
Kevin, did you hear what I said? Kevin?
Yes.
So it's okay do you think that it's okay for us to do it? I mean, it sounds fine to me, but I just want to make sure we wouldn't have any
Greg, can you
problem.
just pose the question for me? Pose the question you'd like to ask for a legal issue.
It's whether he can override the bidding requirements and we can select a certain arborist to be our permanent arborist.
Yes, you all have one of the most liberal waiver provisions I've seen in all of Maryland's municipalities. You can waive the competitive bidding requirements of your charter pretty readily. And if that's what you need to do, but this arborist, this company that you want to designate as arborist on the license or permit, obviously they're not going to do it for free. So you're going to have to eventually negotiate a contract with them to provide their services. But yes, you can waive the competitive bidding requirements. If, for example, if you're looking for an arborist and you need to fill a position as an arborist, and you would typically go and get a proposal and award a bid, yes, the answer is you can simply place on a record a motion to waive the competitive bidding requirements of your charter to do that. Does that answer the question? Was that the question, Greg?
Thank you, Kevin.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. It sounds like he's saying that we need to have a motion to waive the competitive bidding requirements to choose them as our permanent arborist.
Correct.
The problem with this too is that if you're going to engage the services of this company to provide whatever services dealing with trees or arborist services, do you have a proposal? Do you have a contract to put before? If you're gonna waive the competitive bidding requirements, then your next step is to go out and either obtain a proposal or a bid and then bring it back to the commission, or you've already got that right now. And where do you stand with that at this point?
Right now, with American Landscaping, if they became the arborist, it's pretty much just like we're doing now. Whatever trees that we call them on that as emergency, they'll come out and they'll give us a price for that.
Is there an existing contract for that?
There for,
If you called them out to do something with a tree, a street tree tomorrow, do you have a contract to base that work on?
right, they will give me a contract based on any work that, if I called them to come out and cut a tree, they will give me a contract for that particular tree.
Oh, on the spot for
Right,
that.
because
Oh.
each tree would cost something different. No matter if they are our arborists for the year, if I call them for a tree at the town hall, it might be 2,000, but if I call them for a street tree 2 blocks over, it may be 500. Each tree is different. So the last 3 trees that we have called them on, I've also gotten bids from other companies and they were the selected company.
So is what you're saying, you want the commission to authorize you on an as-needed basis to call in this arborist to perform their services and enter into a contract, give you authority to negotiate and enter in that contract on the spot? Is that what you're asking to be done?
Yes, yes and no. I mean, any contract that I get will still be approved by either our town manager if it's within her spending limits, and if not, it'll be approved by the commission for sure.
Right.
But I want to be able to not have to spend up so much time calling 5 and 6 different tree companies to come out just to get 3 proposals for one tree, when I can sole source right to the town's arborist, and they can come out and look at it and let us know what we need to do and give us the contract for whatever the tree is.
Okay, what I suggest that you do is get a document, a letter, a proposal, a retainer from them. And I assume they're probably going to require they may or may not require some sort of fee to be retained and on hand and on call for a period of time, whatever that may be. And that can be approved. And so you can waive the competitive bidding requirements, have them as the designated arborist for a period of time. It could be a period of months or years. And you could have that proposal or that scheme of maneuver, if you will, approved by the commission. And you could dispense with going out and getting bids or quotes every time you needed to prune a tree or cut a tree. But you need a contract or a retainer agreement for them to do that. You need something in writing so that, this is a matter of contractual significance, and the commission needs to approve it.
Okay.
Commissioner Givens, I don't know if you recall, Greg, but we actually went through this about 3 years ago. And so you might go back through your documents and speak to them. They probably have something on record that reflects something similar, because we went through this. Mr. Best kind of, he guided us through this before. We had this conversation. I yield back.
Yeah, we've talked about it, but we've never officially kind of like voted to make them the sole source as our tree company, like as we had in the past when Ms. Shannon and all the other different commissioners were here. Timberline Tree Service was the only tree company that we dealt with. They were the ones who maintained and maintenance all of our large trees. And we broke away from them when we went to American Landscaping by going out doing the competitive bidding, trying to get different companies to come in. And we gave them like 5 trees that we knew that work needed to be done. They gave us the proposals and they chose American Landscaping, and we've been dealing with them ever since. However, with the roadside tree permitting, the reason I'm bringing it up again is because I have to list the arborists on that permitting, and they will be the ones who are, based off of the permit, is qualified and able to do the tree service within the town. And if I say we did another tree and we got—
No, I don't need you to explain to me. I got it. I was just telling you, we've already done this in the past, but it was for a year period. And you might go back through your notes and pull that back up so that we could redo it again. So
But
it wasn't like endless, but I yield
yeah,
back.
that's what I'm saying. It wasn't for the trees. We talked about it for the trees. We only did it for the abatements and for the landscape, and that's all we ever did, entered into a year contract with them for, was for the abatements and the landscape, and never for trees.
Yeah, if you're gonna do an ad needed basis type of agreement, what you're basically doing is retainer, and it's very similar to what I do for the town, because I may be asking 1 month to work on one ordinance, another month I may be asked to work on 5 ordinances or whatever. And so what you're doing is you're going to kill a couple of birds with one stone. You're going to waive the competitive bidding requirements. You're going to approve and bring this arborist on as a retainer. And you might even give authority to someone in the town staff to engage their services beyond what the ordinance allows. What have you. But it sounds to me you need to get yourself into a retainer situation with this company, and that retainer is a type of contract. It needs to be approved by the body.
So I would need to get either a letter or something, or some type of retaining contract.
It can be a letter, it can be a proposal, whatever you want to call it, that basically lays out the relationship and their duties and responsibilities for some period of time.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I can get that and have it at the next meeting.
Okay.
But just for the record, right as of right now, we do have them listed on our permit as the arborist right now. And if, like I said, if we change to another arborist or someone else that's doing the trees, then we will have to put in another application. Pretty much each time a different company will come out and cut trees, we will have to put in a different application listing them as the arborist.
Yeah.
We do have American Landscaping right now. I'm waiting on the list of trees that they have did the survey on. They have like about 100 trees that they notated that can use some type of love and care. I know for a fact that 10 of them probably are on their list that are going to probably come off because we've cut them down. They were dead. So we already taken care of 10 of the trees. So that's where we are for trees. And then also the tree on Parkwood, they are trying to expedite that tree because somehow, some way we faxed the paperwork over to them and they never got it. So I refaxed the paperwork over to them and they got the signed contract. So they're going to try to expedite and get the crew out to take that tree down on Parkwood. So now this Brian.
Greg,
yes?
before you get to that, I got a question in the chat. The trees by the garden, when's the next time, when are we gonna trim them again?
The trees by the garden, well, right now we're pruning all small trees now. So we'll be getting down that way very shortly.
Okay, shortly. Does that mean like in the next couple of weeks?
Yep.
Okay.
That's what we're working on now. We started off on the dead trees that we can handle. And now we're doing a lot of the smaller trees, pruning them up, getting them, clearing the sidewalks and stuff like that. We're doing those now.
Okay.
And then also for those crepe myrtles, all of our crepe myrtles that are real high like those down there, at some point we're going to cut them down. We wouldn't do it during the summertime. It'll be, I believe, the fall. I have to check my my email, but I believe it's either the fall or before the first freeze in the winter. I have to check it, but we'll cut those down so they won't be so high. We got some of them that are like under power lines or something like that.
You mean trim them?
Who?
You mean trim them or cut them completely down?
No, trim them. Cut.
Trim them.
But it will be a major cut because those trees grow back very hardly. So we can.
That's understandable.
We can do a real major cut on them, but for right now, we're just pruning them up because we don't want to kill them in this heat. To just clear the sidewalks and stuff, and then we'll do a bigger cut on them. I believe it's either in the fall or the winter time. I just have to check when the best time to do that major cut for those.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. So the brine, Commissioner Yuri sent me some information about some brine that we can use, or some units that we can purchase so that we can start briming streets during the winter months when it's snowing outside. And Extreme Facilities is the company that she sent me information on. I am still in the process of understanding them. I'm still waiting on the guy to call me back. But there is some high pricing equipment that we will have to purchase. I don't think we will do it in this particular physical year unless the commission is willing to do a budget amendment. But I have talked to some people who are using it. One, I talked to Mr. Mosley, who worked over at Forest Heights, and they, when he was there as their director of public works, he used the brine system over there as well. And he gave me the pros and cons on that. So I have to take back the information that he gave me and see if this particular company, if their material is the same. If it is, then the preparation as well as the maintenance of the brine, it's going to probably be a lot. It's going to take up some time because with the brine that they were using, you have to mix it like every 2 days, and that unit stays on the truck. That truck will be deadline unless it's a snow event for the whole winter. And I don't see us putting the brine in and then taking the brine out and then putting the brine in and taking it out. So I'm still trying to get some information on that. The effectiveness is great for hills from what I understand in the smaller communities. Yes, the county uses it on the main roads where there's a lot of traffic, and that heat helps with any type of ice melting material. But my question is really, how effective is it going to work for the town such as this, where we won't have as much traffic? And once we plow it, is it just good for that first 3 inches of snow, which I'm hearing, and then after that it's back to the salting? Or is it only good for when you plow it the first time? I'm still trying to figure out all of that stuff. I'm hearing from different people, just trying to get my understanding together. I got a couple from talking with other folks. I got a couple questions that I have to go back to Extreme Facilities to ask them so that they can give me some answers to it, so I can give you a better understanding of how this brine solution works. But with the solution, you would have to get about a 500 gallon cistern kind of like tank, and you use that to fill up the tank that you will have on the back of your truck. And then you'll have to find a way, whatever brine you don't use, to get that stuff off your truck and back into your holding tank. So there is a couple different pieces that we will have to get. We will have to spend some money for sure to get these different components for the brine. That's pretty much all I got on that right now. And I'm still, like I said, still working out some details and trying to get some costs that will fit us and not really kill us, but give us what we need so that we can take care of the town if briming is an option. Any questions?
I have a question. This is Commissioner Young. Why are we even looking at it? Is it supposed to be that much better than salt?
It was sent to me by Commissioner Yuri to check into and give the commission a report on it, on what I found, to see if it would save the town money and if it would be, I guess, more effective than using the salt during the winter times.
So, Ann, let
Doesn't
me
sound
give
like
you,
it was gonna,
let me give you,
it doesn't sound like we're gonna save money by it. But go ahead.
well, let me give you a little background on it. So apparently the state, maybe within the next year or two or three, is going to be requiring for municipalities included to migrate to brine use. That's my understanding. So one of the good things in this is that we're just kind of staying ahead of the curve, just like how we wanted our police officers to, you know, get ahead of the curve and get the body cams that are going to be mandated sooner than later, or whatever the case is. That's the first thing. The second thing is, you know, the type of tank and brine that this company is offering is a very good grade. It's a kind that actually saves the streets. It does not, you know, eat up the streets the way that the salt does. So, you know, that's a plus in its favor. It's concentrated. It's a very, very, very good machinery. It comes with tubes. It paces the brine out so that you're not just, you know how like the sprayer for the salt sprays it everywhere. It has a way for you to kind of control when it sprays, how it sprays. It tracks the actual motion of the truck so that it slows down and speeds up depending on the speed of the truck so that we're not wasting anything. It has tubes for entering and filling so that there's no, you know, excessive manual labor. Like, the equipment is good, it's up to date, you know, and the only thing that I have an issue is whether it overall it'll save the town costs. I know that it'll probably help when it comes to repairing streets. And sooner than later, it looks like we are going to have to migrate to using that anyway. So again, staying ahead of the curve is good, but this machinery is good, and, you know, it paces out the brine. It does not, you know, do a lot of wasteful spraying or anything. There's a hose feature also for you to spray hard to get areas. There's emptying, you know, ways to empty and fill without having to do a lot of manual labor. It's really good machinery. And, you know, the overall cost for that, I believe, 50-gallon tank is about, you know, it's pretty affordable. For the brine and the tank, I think it's about 15,000 or 14. 14 was the estimate that I was given. But, you know, for that type of, you know, machinery, that's not necessarily a bad price. So overall, with the truck repairs and buying the salt, it could be more cost effective in the long term. So that's why I wanted Ms. Barber and Mr. Pickney to look at our cost for salt, street repairs, and everything else and compare it to what we might be saving if we invested in something like this. So
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on that? Now, I can say with the brine goes down 2 days to up to probably a half a day before the snow event happens, because the brine has to have time to dry and cure into the asphalt. My question is, how long does the brine last? Because from my experience with brine, even with the county putting it out on the streets and the highways and everything, they put it down and it lasts for a while, and then after that, they're back to salting.
This grade is supposed to be really good. Greg, please, when you make your inquiry later, please really discuss with them the grade of this brine, because there was an attribute to this grade that was supposed to be good and really concentrated. And if the state is migrating to brine, so it might be that concentrated type that the state is migrating to, where you don't necessarily need to go behind with the salt after. So I think that's the whole reason why I think this type is being advertised. So it's just something to definitely look into and ask when you follow up and speak with them.
Yeah, that's one of my questions that I have that I'm going to be speaking with them about.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's the whole brine proposal. We're looking into trying to see price wise how much it costs altogether to get the units installed on the truck, to get the units here. The process of installing it and uninstalling it off the truck, the maintenance of it, the time that it's going to take of if we have to mix the brine constantly, like the brines that we already know of that you got to mix like every other day because it's like oil and water to separate, and then you have to mix it or it won't be effective. So there's a lot of questions that I got now based off of talking with other people who are using it. So I'll give the commission a better proposal or better understanding on my findings at the next meeting. If there's no other questions.
Thank you for that.
No problem. If there's no other questions, that will be all.
Commissioner Givens, I got a question.
Mhm.
Is there, Commissioner Uri, you mentioned that the state was going to mandate the municipalities. What is that based off of? I mean, the municipalities act as their own independent government. So unless there's something that's harmful, I can't imagine them doing that. So is there something, can you elaborate more as to what's that surrounding this mandate by the state surrounding?
I know the state is migrating to it, and I think they're going to, it's something that we have to look into a little bit more and, you know, on the specific parameters. And I think that when we come back and revisit the issue, we can kind of have a little bit more discussion on it. But as far as I know, and I can maybe probably for the next meeting try to, you know, get that recommendation out and spell it out to you all. But I know that the state eventually is migrating and is going to make it in some way mandatory, you know, for cities and I believe municipalities to kind of follow that requirement. It may pose a, you know, environmental, you know, an elevated environmental risk of some sort, and that might be why they're mandating it. I'm not particularly sure why, but I do understand that they are kind of going in that direction.
Okay, thank you. Kevin posted something in the room as well.
The last thing, she had to leave by emergency, but I did invite Cherie Shannon, Commissioner Cherie Shannon from Department of Housing on to this meeting this week. She wanted to talk with the commission and let you know some of the updates and things that they have found within our senior citizen facility over on Bunker Hill Road and some of the things that they're trying to do to mitigate some of the issues that they're having over there. But she had to leave for an emergency. So she said that, you know, if anybody wants to talk further, we can set up another meeting, or I can give you her information, her email and her phone number. You can call and contact her directly. But she has worked she actually used to be the manager over at that facility for some time. She worked with different commissioners here, one being Commissioner Givens, who is on the line, years ago when she was the manager over there. And now she has moved up from managing individual facilities to now as the commissioner. And she's working hard to change a lot of the behaviors and different facilities that she had under her leadership. So
could we get her back for the next town meeting and put her on the agenda early on so she'd have time to talk?
Yes, I can contact her and get her back on the next meeting, work session or the meeting, whichever you prefer.
I think we canceled the work session, but Consuela, does that sound like something we can do too? You agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I think that would be valuable for all of us to hear in a meeting.
Yep, I'll reach out to her and get her here. Also, if anyone needs to talk to her directly about any other issues, whether it's the chief, the commission, or Ms. Barbara, I have her information. I can share her information with you. she told me to feel free to email her or call her about anything that's needed or anything that pops up.
Thank you, Mr. Pinckney. If there's no further questions for our Public Works Department, we'll move to the next agenda item, which is the Police Department update.
Yes, this is Chief Ayers. I have a couple of things going on this week. We are going to help out with the salsa in the garden with Miss Denise. She wants us to come out there with our explorers to help out with setting up and breaking down of the event, as well as Sergeant Hayes and Sergeant Marino is going to be alternating with the van, transporting individuals that are participating in the event from the town hall down to the dead end of Cottage Terrace. Also on August 17th, our explorers have been invited to be ambassadors for the COVIX event at FX Field. Because they did so well in the last events that we had for vaccinations inside the town, Govax, the commander of the Army National Guard, wants our explorers to be invited to be ambassadors, taking people around. There are high officials on this big event over at FX Field on August 17th. So we will be going over there on Monday for a walkthrough on what their assignment's going to be. And then on the 17th, Govax is having a big back to school event to vaccinate as many kids possible up at FX Field. We are shooting out that flyer out to our residents to make sure our residents can participate in this event. They are giving out free school supplies as well as gift cards for those that people to show up. They are going to have Washington team members there signing autographs as well as tours of FX Field. So that's going to be August 17th from 11 to 2 p.m. We also are still collecting back to school. We're doing a back to school drive. We are collecting supplies for our backpack giveaway. Right now, we received a large amount of donations from Staples, all for $450. They gave us several boxes of school supplies to help stuff our book bags. We have ordered the book bags. They should be in tomorrow to start stuffing them. We are doing our book bag giveaway on August 21st, which is a Saturday morning. After that event, we're doing a summer activity with the kids in the community. It's going to be pretty much like a fun day, a works fun day. We call it Water Wars. It's going to be up there on the ball field by the river. So we send that flyer out this week. We had some concerns over at the towers. Miss Ellis gave me a call in reference to the fire lanes. She wants to put fire lanes over there by the circle because a lot of cars are being parked around the circle, and she believes there's a hazard when the fire trucks try to come in. When I spoke to her, I said that it's not my judgment, it's private property. That it has to come through our fire department in the area, saying that it's a hazard for their trucks to get in. So I'm meeting with the fire chief tomorrow to go over there to actually see if that circle needs to be made a no parking zone so the trucks can get around. So we're going to do that and take care of that issue and that concern. I will be meeting with some concerned citizens tomorrow in reference to our code about, I guess, our standards for cutting grass as well as certain items to be grown in the front yards. I'll be meeting with a couple of neighbors tomorrow in regards to that. Last month, we did several trainings. One good training that we got was mental health or first aid. All our officers are now certified to conduct business when we go to a scene and an individual is having a mental episode. We are trained to actually address that situation in a proper way to provide assistance to that individual until help arrives or to attach them to other services for their mental crisis. All the officers did very well in the class. So we have certificates and we certified for 1 year with that training. We had one officer went to driver improvement class this month. The other one will go in September. We also are working on trying to improve our visibility on the trike, a new vehicle. We do have, I just spoke to the town manager in reference to tracking our hours on the trike. We do have a monitor on the trike. Once you turn it on and start moving the trike, it does count our hours. So what we'll be doing is next month's report, we start putting in how many hours we put on that trike each month. So the commission can actually see that we are using the trike. You also start the bike program. You start assigning individuals to hours a week where they will be on their bikes, patrolling the area. We want to set up a schedule and try to get things in before the weather breaks to get more visibility. We did order bike uniforms so the officers can ride in inclement weather, like cold, chilly weather or rainy weather. They can still ride out there. So those outfits did come in. We have them in over at A1 right now, getting the patches put on them and also the badges. So you will see officers out there in their bike uniform shortly, so we can actually improve our visibility with the bikes in all weather types. So we can actually go further into the winter months with the bike program and the track program. The rest of the information, you probably can go into my monthly report to actually review because of time, but I'm here to answer any question you have.
Chief, thank you for all that. I have a question, if that's all right. Somebody has a nice dog that needs to be fed, it sounds like.
No, that's my dog. I apologize. I put myself on mute while you.
Yeah, just looking at your calls handled, the one you had the most of it says premises check. What is that?
All right, premise check is when the officers take the initiative to go around a building or location that we actually put on our hot list. But for instance, someone might go out of town for vacation. We will actually go and check that house and make sure the house is secure while they're on vacation. We might have a call that, individuals saying that, they've been having problems with people walking to the rear or walking down the back alleyways on certain days. We make sure that the officer calls out and put that down on the log. So that's what those are.
Thank you. And the next one was check welfare, and I assume that's like when I ask you to check on the welfare of someone that people are worried about.
Yes, ma'am.
And then check person.
Check person. Check person and suspicious person almost the same. It depends on how the dispatcher clears the call. We might get a call for suspicious individual walking down the street. Might get a call for check a person that is sitting in the car. That's those kind of calls.
Okay. Well, thank you.
No problem. And also, good news. Our numbers are going down. Our calls to service has been going down tremendously in the last couple of months. That's because we are being very proactive. When we get concerns, we send out flyers quickly. Like for instance, somebody stole a package off somebody's stoop. The next day, we send out flyers out to that location and let people know that please watch out for your packages. If someone has a complaint about parking or something like that, we get the flyers out immediately. If someone has a break-in, we get the information out quickly. And I think because we're doing that and our visibility, I believe that's why our calls for service are going down.
And what's that called when you do that?
It's called proactive policing. Is that what we try to do?
Okay.
Try to get in front of things instead of waiting things blow up in our face.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions for the chief tonight?
I don't know whether it's appropriate time to ask this, but I was wondering, did we ever find out anything more about the death at the towers?
They listed as accident.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, next Ward 1, do you have a report?
And my brain is tired right now, so I can't think of anything offhand to report. Thank you.
Ward 2,
Nothing additional at this time. I'll follow up by email.
okay. For me, I did want to have a quick closed session after this meeting. But I only heard from Commissioner Young. I didn't hear from anyone else. And it's just to discuss a quick personnel matter. So
I'm
sorry.
okay with it if it's necessary.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Armache. Commissioner Givens or Commissioner Yuri?
I'm okay with that.
Commissioner Givens?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Ward 4, Commissioner Givens, you have anything to report?
Only I attended the meeting with about the bus service with the other towns. Bladensburg wasn't able to make it, but some things were discussed. They indicated that one of the reasons for the high cost of like what was $150 for us was because even though the bus wasn't running, the people that drive the bus, the employees that drive the bus, they had accrued leave and they utilized their leave during this time. So the towns were still obligated to pay their leave. And I guess maybe they got the buses repaired during the downtime or whatever. So those were added costs. It didn't, I shared with them options in regards to looking at alternative services like voucher systems with Uber. They were going to research that more and take it back to their councils to ascertain if that's something they would be interested in. They were going to meet again in September before the quarterly meeting to kind of get some information together so that when they come to the quarterly meeting, they'll be able to brief everyone at one time. Was there anything else that I'm missing, Ms. Barber?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. Well, I think that was pretty much it. So that was, but they did say that the average cost per ride during the non-pandemic times was about $40 a ride, which personally, I still think that's expensive, but they bounced it off saying that Metro spends like $50 a ride. We're in a different ballpark than Metro. But I still think $40 a ride within 5 miles is rather expensive, rather costly, and I just think that perhaps outsourcing those types of services could be more beneficial. They indicated that the county does have a call a bus service, but if your town has a call a bus service, you have to go through them. If the town doesn't have a call a bus service, then you can go through the county. And there were some other stipulations involved in that, and they weren't clear as to what all those stipulations were, but that was another thing that we're going to get some more additional information on. So I guess during a quarterly meeting, everyone will get a lot more information. So I yield back and I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you for attending those meetings, Commissioner Givens. I have a question. Did anything come up about the outstanding invoices from our town? Because they've sent in like 2 invoices requesting payment. Did that come up?
They didn't mention it unless they mentioned it when I was not in attendance.
They didn't.
But I'm they're sending them because they want you to pay them. I mean, so we have to come to I mean, we're having the discussions now, right? So we're working on it now. We've discontinued working with them now. Those invoices they sent, those are services that have already been done. And whether you agree with them or not, at some point we have to pay them. And I just believe that we should just go ahead and get that out of the way because we've already discontinued working with them until we create a new, if we're going to continue to work with them, create a new a newer model. So I yield back.
Yeah, but in our June meeting, we had said that we weren't going to pay those invoices. It's in the minutes.
Well, yeah, I know, I know that's what you all agreed to. I said that I believe that you should pay them because you're obligated, you entered into a program. And so it's not like those services have not been rendered. They've been rendered, and so you've discontinued any further ability to continue to create more of billing, but those services have been rendered and you need to pay them. And I'm shocked,
To
Mr.
my
Best.
understanding,
Hold on. I'm shocked Mr. Best hasn't said anything in regards to this, because if you enter this agreement to pay them, then I believe you need to pay them. And I can't. And so I'd actually like to hear from a legal perspective, as opposed to people upset by the pricing. I don't like the pricing either.
I'm not upset about the price. I wasn't going to say that. What I was going to say is that we told them prior to them sending this last bill that we weren't paying it anymore and that we weren't going to be in the program anymore. So this last bill, to my understanding, was sent after we told them that. And now, Ms. Barber, I know you said you contacted for you said you couldn't find the email or something prior to that date, but
Yes,
I
ma'am.
know you were instructed to contact them prior to that date of that invoice.
The date that I contacted them was in June.
But we instructed you to contact them before then. Because that last invoice, the one for 435, that's the one that really, I think, sealed the deal for us to say, no, we're not doing it anymore. And that was before the meeting. But I mean, if you guys want to go ahead and pay it, you can pay it. I'm still voting no.
Mr. Best, can you
Commissioner Givens.
assess this?
Commissioner Givens, I've not been brought in on this. I've not been privy to any agreement for this bus service. I've had some ancillary discussions with Ms. Barber about, whether you could use Uber or whether you indemnification agreement. So I've had some ancillary relationship with it, but I've not been brought in on this. I've not been queried about this at all.
Well, I'm not speaking of that aspect of it. What I am speaking of is that some years back, when Commissioner Phyllis Robinson and the other commissioners were on board, they entered into agreement along with the other port towns, and so the bottom line is we've created this bill, and if we didn't make the connection to discontinue it or whatever, then that's not their fault. And I'm not protecting them. Trust me. I don't want to pay. I think it's ridiculous, the amount of what's the names, the billing that they've sent us. However, we've created a bill that's out there they want to get paid on, because they're saying it's not like we didn't do the service. We did the service and we want to get paid. If the town of Cottage City's employees failed to notify them and discontinue the service, that's really not on them. That becomes on us. And sometimes we have to eat that, and that's my position. And like, I do agree that the commission did say, hey, stop. I'm not sure what bill, if another bill came after, did they keep picking up people after that date, or did the bill just lag behind because they only bill out quarterly, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But
there's another question before you speak, Kevin, and the question would be, it would seem to me is what did we agree to pay for? What are the terms of the agreement? Because I don't know that we ever agreed
You weren't on
to
the commission.
pay for all of the things that were included in the bills that were sent to us. I mean, did we agree at the outset to pay to repair their bus? I don't know.
No,
That would require looking at the contract and the specific terms of the contract, I would think, wouldn't it, Kevin?
Oh, yeah, it all rides on the language of the MOU contract, which I have no idea what it looks like. I've never
Right,
seen it.
Yeah, I don't discount that. I mean, of course, that would be the case, but you know, I know as a common, I can't speak exactly what's in the MOU. That was signed years ago, and so and I was on the commission when that was was put in, but the discussion, I can't say word for word, but the discussion that was had around it is that we would all share in the cost based on a percentage of ridership. What that means, the language, I'm not sure. I don't want to pay it either, but we did we did incur this, and I think that if we incur this, then we should pay it.
How much money are you talking here? What's the invoice cost?
$400, $450, something like that.
It's
I'm
like
sorry,
$400 and some a month. Like for a ride, it would cost like $100 or something to take
No.
one person. Sort of ridiculous.
What's the total amount of the invoice that's in question? What's the grand total amount?
It's two invoices. One was for like $435, and then they just sent another one for another $250, which I'm not even sure what that one was for because
I didn't hear
nobody's
about that
riding
one.
it.
I haven't heard about
That's another one they just sent. But
So-
as far as the MOU, Miss Barbara did send that out to us in an email. She sent us the signed copy. Miss Barbara, how long ago was that? A couple of weeks ago you sent that to us? She emailed it to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Go email it to the attorney.
Well,
Yeah, I
if
don't
the
remember
amount,
seeing it, but I could have overlooked it.
if the amount's
I
less than
remember seeing it.
$1,000, the amount that's in question is less than $1,000, that would be considered a small claim in the courts. So it's almost not even worth me getting involved in it for that amount, unless you really, think it's a matter of principle or something. But if it's just a few $100s, it's you might just tell them whatever your review the MOU and review their invoice and tell them you're not going to pay it, and they'll have to sue you. They'll have to bring suit in court.
We're not going to pay. What does the MOU say, Miss Barbara? Does it say it's based off the ridership, or does it say, what does it say? I mean, does it say that we're obligated to pay them or not?
I don't have the MOU in front of me right now.
Who has read the MOU? Because it sounds like some people.
Could you
read
resend it to us tomorrow?
Yes,
Some
ma'am.
people have it. Because I
Thank
know I
you.
have it. Okay, thank you. Let's just deal with it next month. All right.
All right.
Yeah, and I'm not saying not to pay it at all. I'm just saying don't pay it right now until we work out how this billing is going to go. Then we can pay it.
I don't think.
I wasn't saying don't pay it.
Well, I don't think that. Well, we're not utilizing their services, so there shouldn't be any more billing. But to be honest with you, it doesn't. From the conversations that I'm getting, it doesn't sound like the commissions want to use their money to buy a new bus, and that's what Comar Man is proposing. And so, outside of buying a new bus, which I'm not advocating for either, I'm not sure how. And they discussed that was a bulk of their cost, and something else was a bulk of their cost. So I can't remember. I think the employees, of course, but I just don't see how you're going to get that cost down, below $50. Again, I mean, even at 40, I still think it's excessive, but but without a new bus, you're still gonna have breakdowns and stuff like that. So, but I yield back.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner at Large, your report.
Yes,
Commissioner
briefly, I just wanted to circle back. I think maybe last month we had another playground company come out and look at our playground and draft up some concepts. I just wanted to confirm with the playground committee that that was received, and that if they have any discussion or suggestions, if they like it or don't like it, to please reach out to me so that we can kind of make moves to discuss other concepts for the playground to move forward with it.
Aren't you going to be taking bids?
Well, that's a separate issue. Right now, we're also looking at concepts for the remodeling for the actual equipment.
Oh, so you come up with a concept and then you put that in the bid. Is that what you're saying?
We're just staying ahead right now. We haven't gotten to any bidding yet, but we're just looking at concepts to see what we'd like first, and you know, companies that we'd like to work with.
Have you sent the
So-
concepts to us? Because I haven't seen any.
Yeah, so right now we were focusing specifically on the playground committee. And then I guess depending on how we felt about it, we were kind of letting everyone else see it. But those concepts were forwarded to Mr. Pickney also, and we were going to follow up. I think he wasn't here for the meeting after, you know, they were sent to us. And Miss Barbara received a copy as well. So
I'm
we can share that with
confused.
everyone, but I'd like feedback also from the particular ones who, you know, were involved in it and who actually spoke with it.
Okay, so I'm confused. So you weren't
Yeah.
talking to the commission. You were talking to the people on the committee.
He's talking to
Yes,
me and
ma'am.
Greg basically. And hi Danielle, I think I saw the email but didn't get a chance to really look at it. So if you want to resend it, that would be great, and I will get back to you.
Sure, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
I looked at that email and I haven't seen the concepts. I've seen different pieces of equipment that we could use, but not actually a concept of, you know, what the structures they're suggesting for us to use.
Take a second look at it. She included a bunch of things and had a bunch of different draw ups for different playgrounds, different equipment, spinny things, you know, the jungle gym part. It's all there. A lot of things, including benches and fences, the whole nine, and outdoor workout equipment, also just for the record. So
Okay, I'll look at it again.
thank you.
Okay, so we're at the point where we'll take public comments again. If there are any public folks still with us that would like to speak, you have the floor. And Ms. Barbara, I need the form for the closed meeting.
I'm
If you can-
sorry. I'm sorry, but I don't have that right now. I'm at home because I wasn't feeling well, so I don't have that form right now. I don't have it accessible.
Okay, we have something in the chat. Hold on. Okay, there's a question regarding where are the recorded meetings located on the Cottage City website?
I'd have to look and see. I'm not sure exactly how to tell somebody how to get there. If they could put their name in the chat, I can make sure I get the link to them.
Okay. Mr. Best, do you have the form to go into a closed session?
Yes, I do. I have to find it.
Okay, thank you. So, I think that was the only public comment that we received. And that was in the chat. Okay, and the individual put their name in the chat, Ms. Barbara.
Thank you. I'll make sure to get back to them.
Okay. So we have no further public comments. Once Mr. Best locates the form for the closed session, if Ms. Barber, you could allow him to share his screen so he can bring it up for me.
Commissioner Wheatley,
Yes, sir.
while you waiting on that to happen, I just want to say that we had the last week in July was our interns last week from Reverend Addison. But he is coming back whenever I give him the date for the employee appreciation. So
Good.
you can meet all of the commissioners and stuff. So you will be able to get a chance to, talk with him and stuff at that particular time.
Okay, I was wondering if he was still with us or not.
No, this year they wasn't 6 weeks, they were only 5 weeks. And due to COVID, we just did something real small, just the public works guys just cooked out down at the shop, and we took a picture that I'm gonna give to Brittany so she can probably put it in the newsletter.
The newsletter, yeah. Yeah, because I don't even think I got his name. I know I saw him a couple of times, but I don't even think I got his name. So it'd be nice to put a picture and a name in the newsletter.
His name was Danny. He was a real good intern. He enjoyed working with us. Commissioner Givens probably can speak more from a commissioner standpoint, but he was able to, help us with the gazebo stuff, and we learned a lot from him and a lot about him during that time. So
now, when we have the interns, do we do anything like, do we give them a certificate or do we give them anything to, as a token of appreciation?
yeah, so when he come back, I told him that I'll have it for him. I usually give him a certificate from Public Works, and I usually give him a letter of recommendation.
Oh, okay, cool. That sounds very good.
On a similar subject, may I speak?
Sure.
We got an email recently about the scholarship, that there was only one applicant. When are we going to be? I don't know whether there's still time for anyone else to apply, but when do we normally? Seems like it's probably time for us to make a decision since it's about time for the school year to start. I don't know.
I think the deadline is over. Is it over, Ms. Barber?
Yes, ma'am.
So maybe we should go ahead and make a decision so that could go forward.
Yeah, I guess we probably should, seeing as it's only one candidate.
Right, and I read his application and it seemed good.
Okay. All righty, so Mr. Best has shared his screen and he has the form up for me to read. So we're not going to adjourn. We're just going to, oh Lord, I hate when the screen starts moving. Okay. Here we go. Under the Open Meetings Act, General Provisions, Article 3-305. This form has, okay. Recorded votes. Statutory authority to close session. This meeting will be closed under General Provisions, Article 3-305B, only to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Okay, now I've read the statutory authority and let's see. And so now I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Well, you need to do one more thing.
What's that? What did I
You
miss?
You gave the statutory basis for closure, but you didn't give the reason. Now, you don't want to disclose the confidentiality if it's the basis for closure, but you want to give a little more meat on the bones as to why you're closing a session for a personnel reason.
Let's see. We're going into closed session, discuss a personnel matter to just to address some concerns. Is that good enough?
No, that's too vague.
Employment concerns.
Do you know what type of employee? Is it about police officers? Is it about administrative?
It's administrative. To discuss administrative employee staff.
Okay.
Is that good
might
enough?
be it. That might be enough.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Best. Is there a motion to go into a closed session?
Commissioner Amarche, I move that we go into a closed session.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Yuri, I second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Wheatley, aye. Thank you. It is 10:46. I need to write down that we went into closed session, what time and who said what. I do need for Ms. Barber to stay. I need Mr. Best to stay, and I need Ms. Williams to stay. Everyone else, thank you for your time. So anyway, 10:46.
Well, just a moment. Are you excusing the other commissioners or are you talking about?
No. The commissioners are staying. No,
because
they're staying.
You need a quorum.
No, they're staying. They know they're staying. I just need these other staff people to be here.
Okay.
I don't need everybody else to stay though. Okay. So let's see. We got everybody. Okay. And Commissioner Young, you made the motion, right?
Actually, it was me.
Oh, was that you, Artist? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I think Commissioner Yuri and Ann both seconded at the same time, but Commissioner Yuri said her name, so.
Okay, you made the motion. One of them, I think I heard Danielle. Take the second. Okay. All right, I just have to make these notes. If not, I'll forget.
Do you want me to record this? Do you want me to record this or just stop recording?
No, Miss Barber, we never record the closed session. Please stop.
I'm just checking.
No, don't record it. And so, hello, recording. So let me just read this section. So for a meeting closed under the statutory authority cited above, time of the closed session was 11:48. Place was Zoom. The purpose again was to discuss personnel matters related to an administrative employee, personnel matters and concerns. Those in attendance were the 5 commissioners, Wheatley, Young, Yuri, Givens, and Amarche, the town manager, Ms. Barber, the town attorney, Mr. Best, the town treasurer, Ms. Hill Williams. And no actions were taken. And I think that's it. All right, so now we can entertain a motion to actually adjourn at 11:50.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Young.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. Second, I'll second. This is Commissioner Wheatley. All in favor, say aye.
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 Commissioner Yuri, aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone, for staying and hanging with us tonight. Sorry it took so
Thank
long.
you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Yes.
Good night.
Bye-bye.